We are traveling back in time tonight. We are going back hundreds of years to a time when the night was truly dark and the winter was truly long. We are going to the Middle Ages, but we are not here for battles or kings or loud feasts. We are here for the quiet moments. We are here to witness how the world sleeps. We are here to see how people found warmth when the sun dipped low and stayed away. Look up at the sky. It is a pale shade of steel grey. The clouds are heavy and low. They look like soft blankets pulled across the horizon. A single snowflake drifts down, then another. They land on the woolen sleeve of your tunic. They are perfect and geometric and fleeting. This is the beginning of the long winter. In the medieval world, winter was not just a season. It was a presence. It was a guest that arrived in November and refused to leave until March. For the peasant working the land, this was a time of distinct change. The rhythm of life slowed down. The frenetic energy of the harvest was over. The wheat had been cut. The barley had been stored. The apples had been picked and placed in barrels. The frantic work of autumn was finished. Now there was only waiting. Now there was only preparation. Imagine walking towards a small village nestled in the valley. The trees around you are bare. Their branches reach up like black ink spilled against the grey sky. But there is a beauty in their starkness. They are resting. The sap has gone deep into the roots to survive the cold. Just like the trees, the people are drawing inward. You approach a small cottage. It is a humble structure. It sits low to the ground as if trying to hug the earth for warmth. The walls are made of wattle and daub. This is a woven lattice of wooden strips covered in a mixture of clay and straw and animal dung. It sounds simple, but it is incredibly effective. When it dries, it becomes as hard as stone. It is a thick shell that keeps the wind out. The walls are whitewashed with lime, making the cottage glow softly in the fading light of the afternoon. The roof is steep and thatched with thick bundles of dried reeds and straw. The thatch is layered heavily. It is perhaps a foot thick or more. It acts like a heavy woolen hat for the house. The snow that falls on it will not melt. It will sit there and add another layer of insulation. You walk up to the door. It is made of solid oak planks. The wood is dark and aged. It has absorbed the smoke and the rain of 50 years. The hinges are made of iron forged by the village smith. They are heavy and black. You reach out and push the door open. It swings inward on well-oiled hinges, moving silently. Step inside. The first thing you notice is the change in the air. Outside, the air was sharp and biting. Inside, the air is still and thick. It wraps around you like a warm towel. It smells of dried herbs hanging from the rafters. It smells of roasted onions and earthy root vegetables. It smells of the wood fire burning steadily in the center of the room. Let us close the door behind us. The latch clicks into place. The wind is now just a memory. A soft murmur against the thick walls. You are safe here. You are sheltered. The main room is dim but comforting. In the medieval peasant home, the hearth was the heart of the world. It is not a fireplace against the wall like in modern homes. It is an open fire in the center of the earthen floor. The smoke rises up lazily. It drifts toward a small hole in the thatch roof or simply filters out through the eaves. This smoke is not choking. It hangs in the upper rafters, creating a layer that preserves the timber and keeps insects away. Down here, where we sit, the air is clear enough. Look at the fire. It is built carefully. Fuel is precious in the long winter. They do not burn large logs recklessly. Instead, they burn peat or slow-burning hardwoods like oak. The flames are low and orange. They lick at the blackened bottom of a heavy iron cauldron suspended from a tripod. Sit down on a wooden bench in the fire. The wood of the bench is smooth and polished by years of use. Feel the heat radiating from the hearth. It warms your hands. It warms your face. The cold that settled in your bones while you were outside begins to dissolve. This is the primary way they survived. Fire. It was a living thing that needed to be fed and watched. The fire was never allowed to go out completely. At night they would bank the fire. They would cover the embers with ash to keep them smouldering until morning. Waking up to a cold house with no fire was a danger they avoided at all costs. The fire was safety. Look around the room as your eyes adjust to the dim light. The floor is hard-packed earth. It has been swept clean. Over the years, the dirt has been compacted until it feels almost like concrete. In some places, dried rushes or straw are scattered to add a layer of softness and warmth underfoot. The straw smells sweet like a summer field preserved in amber. The windows are small. Glass is far too expensive for a peasant family. Instead, the window openings are covered with oilcloth or parchment, or sometimes thin sheets of horn. These materials let in a milky translucent light, but they block the wind. They are glowing faintly now with the last grey light of the day. Soon it will be completely dark outside, but inside the glow of the fire is enough. On one side of the room, there is a large wooden chest. This is where the family keeps their linens and their best clothes. On top of the chest sits a clay jug and a few wooden bowls. Everything here has a purpose. There is no clutter. There is only what is needed to live and to be warm. You can hear the wind picking up outside. It whistles softly around the corners of the cottage. It taps against the thatch. But it cannot get in. The walls are thick. The mud and straw insulation works perfectly. The temperature inside remains stable. It is not hot like a modern house with central heating. But it is not freezing. It is a steady, survivable warmth. In the corner there is a loom. During the long winter nights, when the fields were frozen, the women would spin and weave. The rhythmic clack and swish of the loom was the soundtrack of the winter evenings. Producing wool was vital. Wool was the armor against the cold. Imagine the texture of medieval wool. It was not the soft, chemically treated wool we know today. It was thick. It was heavy. It still retained some of the lanolin from the sheep. This natural oil made the wool water resistant. When you wore a tunic made of this wool, you felt the weight of it. It trapped your body heat close to your skin. The people surviving this night are wearing layers. First, a shift of linen. Linen is made from flax. It is softer against the skin. It absorbs sweat and keeps the body dry. Dryness is essential for warmth. Over the linen, they wear the heavy wool tunics. And over that perhaps a cloak or a shawl lined with rabbit fur or squirrel fur. Nothing was wasted. Let us move closer to the fire. Listen to the sound of the wood popping softly. A small spark flies up and fades into the darkness of the rafters. The cauldron gently bubbles. Inside is a pottage. This was the staple food of the winter. Pottage is a thick stew. It is made from whatever is available: peas, beans, onions, cabbage, perhaps a bit of bacon or salt pork, if the family is fortunate. It simmers all day. The ingredients break down until it becomes a dense, warming porridge. It is grey and brown and humble, but it is full of energy. Eating this hot stuff fills the stomach and generates internal heat. It is comfort food in its most primal form. Imagine holding a wooden bowl of this pottage. The wood is warm to the touch. The steam rises up and warms your nose. You take a spoonful. It tastes of earth and salt and smoke. It travels down, and you feel the warmth spreading through your chest. This is how they survived. One warm meal at a time. One warm breath at a time. The sun has fully set now. The window coverings are dark. The only light comes from the orange embers of the hearth, and perhaps a single rushlight. A rushlight is a simple candle made by dipping the pith of a rush plant into animal fat. It burns with a small flickering flame. It does not give much light. Just enough to see the faces of those around you. Just enough to see the thread on the spindle. The darkness of the medieval winter was absolute. There were no streetlights. No ambient glow from a nearby city. When the sun went down, the world vanished. This forced a different kind of sleep schedule. People went to bed early. They slept in segments. They would sleep for a few hours, in what was called the first sleep. Then they would wake up in the quiet middle of the night. They might tend the fire. They might pray. They might talk softly in the dark. Then they would drift back into the second sleep until dawn. This rhythm was natural. It followed the needs of the body. Tonight we are in that quiet time before the first sleep. The work is done, the animals are fed, the door is barred. The world has shrunk down to this single room, this single circle of firelight. Feel the sense of community here. In the deepest winter, families would often bring their most valuable animals inside. A milk cow or a few goats might be tethered in a partitioned section of the house at the far end. This might sound strange to us, but it was practical. The animals generated body heat. Their large warm bodies acted like living radiators. The sound of a cow chewing its cud or a goat shifting in the straw was a comforting noise. It meant life was present. It meant the livestock was safe from wolves and the frost. The smell of the animals mixed with the smoke and the herbs created a scent that meant home. It was a dense, organic atmosphere. As the night deepens, the temperature outside drops further. The puddles in the village lane freeze solid. The branches of the trees become brittle. The frost forms intricate patterns on the thatched roof. But inside the cottage, the thermal mass of the earth floor and the clay walls holds the heat of the day and the heat of the fire. You are sitting on the bench and your eyelids feel heavy. The flickering light is hypnotic. It dances on the walls, creating shadows that stretch and shrink. The rhythm of the fire is slower than the rhythm of a clock. It burns at its own pace. The survival of the long winter was a victory of patience. It was about enduring. It was about conserving energy. People moved slower. They spoke softer. There was no need to rush because there was nowhere to go. The roads were impassable with mud and snow. The village was an island. This isolation brought peace. There were no unexpected visitors. There was no news from the capital to worry about. There was only the immediate reality of the woodpile and the grain sack and the fire. Let us look at the bedding. In the corner of the room is a raised platform, or perhaps just a designated area on the floor piled high with straw. Over the straw are laid woven mats and heavy woolen blankets. There might be a feather bed if the family is prosperous, a mattress stuffed with goose down. They slept together. The whole family would share the bed. This was not out of a lack of space alone, but for warmth. Body heat is the most efficient heater. Lying close together under a mountain of furs and wool created a pocket of tropical warmth in the freezing night. Imagine crawling into that bed. The linens are cool at first, but they quickly warm up. The weight of the blankets is heavy and reassuring. It presses you down into the soft straw mattress. You can hear the breathing of the others. A slow rhythmic sound that matches the wind outside. You are safe. The cold cannot reach you here. The night is long, but you are prepared. The wood is stacked dry and ready. The flour is safe in the chest. The roof is strong. Drift deeper into this scene. Visualize the fibers of the blanket. They are rough and natural. They are dyed with plant roots, madder for red or woad for blue, though in the dark they all look grey. The weaving is tight. Every thread was spun by hand. Every thread represents hours of work by the firelight. This blanket is more than just bedding. It is time. It is care. It is survival woven into cloth. The fire pops again. A log settles into the ash with a soft crunch. The light dims slightly as the flame retreats into the embers. This is the signal for sleep. The medieval peasant did not fear the dark in the safety of their home. They welcomed it. The dark was the time for dreams. It was the time when the body repaired itself from the hard labor of the summer. The winter was the great rest. Imagine you are one of them. Your hands are calloused from the hoe and the scythe. Your back is tired, but now you are resting. You have nowhere to be tomorrow. The fields are frozen. The work is done. You can sleep until the light returns. The silence of the medieval night is profound. There are no engines, no hum of electricity, no sirens, just the wind. The wind is an old voice. It tells stories of the north. It tells stories of the mountains, where the snow never melts. It tries to find a crack in the wool, but the mud and straw hold firm. You are perfectly insulated. You are in a cocoon. Let the image of the cottage fade slightly and focus on the sensation of warmth. Focus on your own toes. Are they warm? Focus on your fingers. Let a wave of relaxation travel up your arms. Just as the heat from the hearth travels through the room, the relaxation travel through you. The medieval winter was a challenge, yes, but it was also a time of immense coziness. We use the word cozy today, but it stems from this concept. A small, safe, warm place in the midst of a harsh environment. The contrast is what makes it beautiful. You cannot truly appreciate the warmth of the fire without the knowledge of the freezing wind outside. We are going to spend many hours here. We will explore every aspect of this survival. We will look at how they cooked, how they made their clothes, how they cared for their animals. We will watch the snow pile up against the door. We will watch the icicles form on the eaves. But for now we simply sit, we simply breathe. The first hour of the night is settling in, the transition from wakefulness to rest. The mind unspools, the worries of the harvest are gone. The grain is stored, whatever happened in the summer is over. Now there is only the long winter. Listen to the sound of the thatch shifting slightly in the wind. It is a rustic sound, organic, millions of dried stalks of straw woven together. They whisper to each other. Deep in the village, a dog barks once, and then falls silent. The silence rushes back in to fill the space. It is heavy and soft like velvet. We are going to stay here for a while. In this warm pocket of air. In this year without a number. In this season of ice and fire, you are watching the embers glow. They pulse, red, then dark, red, then dark. It matches your heartbeat. Everything is slowing down. The night passes in a blur of deep dreamless sleep. The kind of sleep that only comes when the world is frozen and silent. Now imagine the very first hint of morning. It is not a bright sunrise. It is a slow lightening of the grey sky. The light filters through the parchment window. It is milky and dim. Inside the cottage, the air has cooled during the night. It is not freezing, but it is fresh. You can see your breath in a very faint mist if you exhale sharply. The fire has burned down to a bed of grey ash and deep red coals. They are still hot. They have held the heat all night long just as they were meant to. The first movement of the day is slow. There is no alarm clock. There is only the light and the cold nipping at your nose. You pull the heavy wool blanket up to your chin. You want to stay in the warmth of the bed for just a few moments longer. The straw mattress has conformed to the shape of your body. It is a warm nest, but the day must begin. The survival of the household depends on the routine. Someone pushes back the heavy covers. The sudden exposure to the cool air is a shock, but it wakes you up. You swing your legs over the side of the bed, and your feet find the rush-covered floor. The rushes are cool but dry. The first task is always the fire. It is the priority. You walk to the hearth in the center of the room. You kneel down on the hard earth. You take an iron poker and gently stir the ashes. Underneath the grey dust the coals glow bright orange. When the air hits them, they are alive. You take a handful of dry kindling. Small twigs of birch, dried moss kept in a basket by the fire. You place them onto the coals. You lean in close and blow gently, a thin stream of breath. The ash swells up, the coals brighten. And then with a soft crackle, the kindling catches. A small yellow flame jumps up. This moment is the birth of the new day. The light from the flame illuminates the room. It chases away the shadows in the corners. You add slightly larger pieces of wood, then a peat turf. The smell of the peat smoke rises immediately. It is an earthy ancient smell. It smells of the ground itself. Now that the fire is revived, you can put the kettle on, or rather the cauldron. You add a little water from the bucket to the pottage left over from last night. You stir it. The heat begins to loosen the thick stew. Steam begins to rise again. The cottage begins to warm up. While the food warms, you go to the door. You need to see what the winter has done during the night. You lift the heavy wooden bar. The iron latch is cold to the touch. You pull the door open. The light is blindingly white. During the night the snow fell. It has covered everything. The muddy yard is gone. The pile of firewood is a white mound. The roof of the neighbor's cottage is a perfect white slope. The world has been erased and drawn again in white chalk. The air hits you. It is profoundly cold. It is the kind of cold that freezes the moisture in your nose instantly. It tightens the skin on your face. But it is also incredibly fresh. It feels clean. You take a deep breath, and it wakes you up more than any caffeine ever could. You look at the snow near the door. There are no footprints yet. You are the first to see this morning. The silence is even deeper than the night, because the snow absorbs all sound. It is a muffled, padded world. You step out just for a moment to grab a few logs from the stack against the wall. The wood is cold and rough. Bark flakes off in your hands. You hurry back inside and shut the door firmly. You embrace the warmth of the room again. The contrast between the freezing white outside and the golden warm inside is the definition of shelter. Now the household is waking up. The animals at the end of the cottage are stirring. The cow lets out a low rumble. The chickens which were brought in to roost in a coop near the wall begin to cluck softly. Life in the winter cottage is intimate. Everyone and everything is close together. Let us examine the morning meal. In the medieval winter, you eat to fuel the body against the cold. You break your fast. You sit on the bench again. You have a chunk of dark rye bread. Rye is a hardy grain that survives the poor soils and the wet weather. The bread is dense and heavy. It is not airy like modern white bread. It is chewy. It requires effort to eat. You dip the bread into the hot pottage. The bread soaks up the juices. It softens. You eat. The warmth radiates from your stomach. This is slow energy. This meal will keep you full 4 hours. After the meal, the work begins. Even in winter there is work. But it is indoor work. It is quiet work. The man of the house might sit by the fire with a piece of wood and a knife. He's carving a spoon or a handle for a tool. He works slowly. He follows the grain of the wood. Shavings curl off and fall onto the floor. They will be swept into the fire later. Nothing is wasted. The woman might return to the loom or the spindle. The making of thread never stops. It takes a vast amount of thread to weave enough cloth for a tunic. Thousands of yards. So every spare moment is used to spin. The drop spindle spins like a top. The wool flows through her fingers. It is a mesmerizing repetitive motion. Twist and pull, twist and pull. Let us focus on the light in the room. As the sun climbs higher behind the clouds, the light inside the cottage changes. It shifts from the orange of the fire to a blend of orange and the grey daylight from the windows. It is a soft, diffuse light. It is gentle on the eyes. There are no sharp shadows. Everything has a soft edge. Imagine the soundscape of this morning. The crackle of the fire, the rhythmic thud of the loom, the scrape of the knife on wood, the low murmur of conversation. They do not shout. There is no need. The room is small and the acoustics are dampened by the thatch and the clay. Voices are low and calm. Outside the wind begins to pick up again. It drives the snow across the fields. But here inside the routine is a shield. Let us talk about the water. Water is heavy. In the summer, fetching water from the well or the stream is a chore. In the winter, it is a battle. The stream might be frozen. You have to break the ice. You have to carry the buckets with freezing wet hands. So inside the cottage, water is used carefully. They do not wash dishes under a running tap. They wipe bowls clean with bread. They use a small amount of warm water and a rag to wash their faces. Hygiene is different. It is dry. But there is a cleanliness to the cold. The freezing temperatures kill bacteria. The smoke in the house acts as a fumigant. The smells are natural. Wood smoke, wool, lanolin, grain. You are sitting by the fire and you feel drowsy again. The heat is so comforting. You watch the steam rising from a drying cloak hung near the hearth. The steam twists and turns in the air currents. It disappears into the thatch. This is the slow passage of time. There is no rush to get to the office. There is no commute. The commute is 10 steps from the bed to the bench. The goal of the day is simply to maintain. Maintain the heat. Maintain the food supply. Maintain the shelter. There is a nobility in this simplicity. It is a direct connection between effort and survival. Think about the floor again. The earth floor. It connects you to the ground. You are not separated from the earth by concrete and steel. You are living on it. In the summer it is cool. In the winter it warms up slowly and holds the heat. It is softer than stone. It is forgiving. If you look closely at the door walls, you can see the fingerprints of the people who built them. The clay was smoothed by hand, perhaps 50 years ago, perhaps by the grandfather of the man sitting next to you. The house is a family member. It has been shaped by human hands. The morning stretches on. It is a long morning. The light moves across the floor inches by inches. You watch a dust mote floating in a sunbeam that has managed to pierce the clouds. It floats up and down, suspended. You are feeling very calm. The repetition of the domestic tasks is soothing. It is predictable. In a world that was often dangerous and unpredictable, the winter routine was a source of order. Let us go back to the preparation of the midday meal. The main meal was often eaten early around noon. The fire is stoked up again, more wood is added. Maybe today there is something special. A rabbit caught in a snare. The meat is lean. It is chopped and added to the pot. The smell changes. It becomes richer, more savory. They might add herbs, dried sage, dried thyme. These were gathered in the summer and hung in bunches from the rafters. Now they are dry and brittle. When you crumble them between your fingers, they release a burst of summer scent. It is a memory of the warm days. You crumble the sage into the pot. The aroma fills the small room. It mixes with the smoke. Survival is also about flavor. It is about finding joy in the small variations of the diet. A bit of honey on the bread, a roasted onion. These small things were luxuries. As you wait for the meal, you look at the tools leaning against the wall. A flail for threshing grain, a scythe. They are resting too. They look like sleeping soldiers. They will not be needed until the spring. The metal is dull and cold. The wood is polished by sweat and grip. The connection to the seasons is absolute. You cannot fight the winter. You cannot turn up a thermostat. You have to yield to it. You have to adjust your life to fit the cold. There is a humility in this, and in that humility there is peace. You are not trying to dominate nature. You are existing within it. You are a small warm point of life in a vast white landscape. The wind gusts harder now. You hear it roar in the chimney. A downdraft sends a puff of smoke into the room. It smells sharp. Then the draft reverses, and the smoke is drawn up again. The fire dances wildly for a moment, then settles. You are grateful for the roof. You think about the reeds that were cut from the river bank to make it. You think about the skill of the thatcher, who laid them so perfectly that not a drop of melted snow gets through. Everything in this house tells a story of skill and preparation. The midday meal is served. You eat slowly. You savor the warmth. You wipe the bowl clean. After the meal, a heaviness settles over the room. The digestion of the heavy food and the warmth of the fire induces a nap. This is common. The winter days are short, but the body hibernates slightly. You lean back against the wall. You close your eyes. You listen to the breathing of the house, the creak of a timber, the rustle of the straw, the pop of the fire. You are drifting back into the quiet. The snow is piling up outside. Inch by inch, it is wrapping the house in a white blanket. But you are warm, you are fed, you are safe. The cottage feels vast and quiet again, but it is not empty. It is filled with the residual warmth and good feeling of the gathering. The energy lingers. You go to the hearth. You smooth the ashes around the grate your log. You bank it again, ensuring the fire will stay alive until the morning. The wood has a long way to burn, and the sun has a long way to climb. But tonight the darkness was defeated. Tonight the sun was encouraged to return. You go back to bed. The blankets feel extra warm now. The fire seems extra comforting. The wool against your skin feels like a protective hug. You breathe in the air that smells faintly of wood smoke and shared happiness. You close your eyes. You feel the slow passage of time. The Yule log is burning. The light is coming back. You sleep deeply. The deepest cold brings a danger that is invisible, sickness, in the confinement of the cottage, where the air is stale, and the warmth is shared. Germs pass easily. Today someone in the house is not well. It is a chest cold, a deep rattling cough. This is not a dramatic fever. This is the quiet struggle against the chill. Listen to the sound of the breathing. It is labored. The chest rises and falls with effort. Sometimes a soft wheezing sound, and then the cough. It is a dry sound, a hollow sound, the sound of the lungs trying to clear the cold. You are the caregiver. Your actions are slow, deliberate, and focused. The fire is the essential tool for healing. You keep it burning steadily. The heat is vital. You prepare a steam tent. A heavy linen sheet is draped over the head of the sick person. You bring a clay pot of boiling water from the hearth. You place it on the floor near the bed. The steam rises. It is hot and moist. It smells of the clay pot and the smoke that clings to it. You add herbs to the water. Dried horehound, mullein leaf. These are the herbs of the lungs. They were gathered in the summer and dried in the sun. Now they are giving their life to healing. As the herbs hit the hot water, they release their powerful scent. It is sharp and clean. The steam carries the scent up under the sheet. The sick person breathes it in slowly. Inhale. The steam is hot and opens the airway. Exhale. The breath is clearer. You sit beside the bed. You watch the rhythmic rising of the sheet as the person breathes. It is a visual representation of life, rising, falling. You place your hand on their forehead. You feel the skin. It is slightly warm. Not burning but warm. You keep your hand there. Your touch is soft and cool. It is a transmission of care. A flow of healing energy from one warm body to another. You speak softly. Your voice is a low hum. You tell them that the herbs are working. You tell them the sun is turning. You tell them to rest. Your voice is as soft as the linen sheet. The sound of the steam is a low, steady hiss. Shh, not a forbidden sound, but the natural sound of water boiling. It is a white noise. It drowns out the sound of the cough for a moment. You decide to make a warm drink, a posset. It is a drink made of warmed milk curdled with ale or wine and spiced. It is a nutrient-rich warm delivery system. You warm the milk gently on the fire. You must watch it closely, so it does not boil over. You stir it with a wooden spoon. The sound of the spoon scraping the bottom of the pot is a soft rhythm. Click, swirl. The milk smells sweet and comforting. You mix in a little honey for the throat. The posset is served in a small cup. You hold the cup for the sick person. They drink slowly. They sip. The milk is warm and thick. It coats the throat. You see the immediate relief in their eyes, the small victory of a warm throat. You replace the bedding. The linen sheet is damp with sweat. You carefully replace it with a dry, warm one. You have warmed the new sheet near the fire. It is radiating heat. The wool blankets are heavy. You tuck them in tightly around the person, creating a perfect cocoon. The greatest medicine is sleep. You sit back and you wait. You take your spinning spindle. You cannot be idle. You work slowly. The wool thread flows through your fingers. It is a meditative process. The spindle turns, whir, zzz. The rhythm of your work is comforting. It is a sign that life continues. The household is still functioning. The world has not stopped. The silence is punctuated only by the breathing and the occasional cough. You look at the rushlight. You watch the small flame. It is a tiny, fragile light. It is a metaphor for life itself. It is a flicker against the darkness. It must be protected. The fragility of life in the Middle Ages was absolute. A common cold could turn into a death sentence. There were no safety nets. Only the knowledge of the earth and the diligence of the caregiver. You rub the back of the sick person's hand. The skin is dry. You rub a little lard or natural oil into it. You massage the joints gently. The scent of the smoke in the room is important. It is not just for heating. It is a natural disinfectant. The smoke carries particles that cleanse the air. It kills the unseen things that cause illness. You sit 4 hours. You are not bored. You are present. You are completely focused on this act of care. The time flows slowly like thick honey. The light outside begins to change again. The deep shadows of the morning give way to the pale grey light of midday. The sick person has fallen into a deep sleep. Their breathing is quieter now, less laboured. The worst of the fit has passed. You listen closely to the long, slow exhales. They are peaceful. You are relieved. You stand up slowly, so you do not disturb them. Every movement is careful, soft. You walk to the window. You open the oilcloth slightly. You look outside. The world is grey and cold, but the air feels fresh. You take a deep cleansing breath. You go back to the hearth. The fire needs new wood. You add 2 small pieces. You do it quietly, no chopping. Just placing the wood gently onto the coals. The fire thanks you with a low hum. It is ready to continue its work. It will maintain the warmth. It will create the steam. It will heal the house. You are tired now. You have been watching the whole night and the morning. You wrap yourself in your cloak. You sit on the bench near the fire. You rest your head against the wall. You close your eyes. You allow the warmth to seep into your bones. The gentle rhythm of the sleeping house is a lullaby. The low, steady glow of the embers is a comfort. The feeling of having protected someone. The feeling of quiet victory over the cold and the illness. It settles over you. You allow yourself a short rest. A small reward for your vigilance. The steam has cleared. The herbs have settled. The breathing is steady. You drift off to sleep. A soft light sleep of the caregiver. Ready to wake at the slightest sound. You wake up. The cottage is quiet. The sick person is recovering slowly. The crisis has passed. Today the light is different. You notice it immediately. The light is not the stark silver blue of deep winter. It is yellower, softer. It carries a hint of warmth. The sun is higher in the sky. It has climbed the branches of the invisible cosmic tree. You open the door and step outside. The change is subtle but profound. The air is heavier. It is damp. It no longer bites at your skin. It clings. It feels wet. You listen. The profound silence is gone. It has been replaced by a sound. The sound of dripping water. Drip, drip, drip. It is everywhere. Water is running off the thatch. Water is running off the eaves. Water is running off the icicles. The icicles are shorter now. They are shedding large cold drops. The long freeze is breaking. The water is moving. This is the first song of spring. You look at the snowdrifts. They look wet. They are no longer crisp and sparkling. They are dull and heavy. The surface is softening. The edges are rounding off. You walk to the woodpile. The snow that sat on the stacked wood is sliding off. It falls to the ground with a soft wet splat. You feel the ground beneath the melting snow. It is becoming soggy. It is turning back into mud. This is not a pleasant feeling. The mud will be terrible, but the mud is a sign of life. The frozen earth is yielding. Listen for another sound. A heavy dull thud, thump. That is a large piece of snow sliding off a tree branch. It lands on the ground with a wet sound. It is the sound of weight being released. The landscape is shedding its burden. You stand by the side of the cottage. You close your eyes. You listen to the sound of the thaw. Drip, drip, drip. It is a million tiny sounds all blending into a wet hum. It is the sound of patience rewarded. Now smell the air. The scent of the wood smoke is still there, but underneath it is a new smell. A deep earthy smell, the smell of wet soil. The ground beneath the snow has been frozen and clean. Now that the warmth is reaching it, the earth is beginning to breathe out. It is the smell of decomposition, of mold, of wet leaves and raw dirt. It is the smell of things starting to decay, so that new things can grow. It is the smell of fertile promise. You walk to the edge of the field. The snow is thinner here. You can see the dark brown line of the frozen earth emerging. It is wet and shiny. It looks hungry. You look at the bare trees. The branches are dripping water. They are black and glossy. They look like they are weeping. But they are not sad. They are drinking. The sap is starting to move up the trunk. You cannot hear it, but you know it is happening. The life force that retreated deep into the roots is starting its slow climb back to the tips of the branches. You feel the same sensation in your own body, a slow return of energy. The deep winter sleepiness is starting to lift. You feel an urge to move, to do. The quiet rhythm of the spindle replaced by the need for outdoor work. The winter is not over. There will be more freezes. But the power has shifted. The sun is now stronger than the cold. You walk back into the cottage. The light inside is noticeably brighter. You can see the dust motes dancing in the air more clearly. They are tiny golden spakes. You go to the storage area. You look at the sacks of grain. You touch the heavy cloth. You know you still have weeks of supplies left. The planning paid off. The work of the harvest saved you. You look at the dried herbs hanging from the ceiling. They are dry and brittle. They are ready to be used as medicine or seasoning. They hold the memory of the summer sun. You sit by the fire, you add wood, but now you burn it differently. You burn it with less fear. You burn it with celebration. The fire is no longer an absolute necessity. It is a welcome comfort. You watch the flames. They are bright and yellow. You think about the sounds of the future, the birds returning, the sound of the plough turning the earth, the sound of the seeds dropping into the newly thawed soil. But for now you listen to the drip 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 on the roof. It is the music of the thaw. The world is weeping away the winter. You close your eyes and focus on that sound. It is irregular. Drip, pause, drip drip, pause. It is the sound of water finding its path. Water seeking the earth. Let the sound of the melting snow fill your ears. Let the damp air fill your lungs. You are emerging from the cocoon. You are coming back to life. The long winter is ending. We move deeper into the feeling of emergence, focusing on the domestic renewal that signifies the end of the long winter. The sun is noticeably stronger now. Its pale light can actually be felt warming the clay of the south-facing wall. The air inside the cottage, though still cozy, is thick. It is heavy with the smoke of 5 months of constant fire, the scent of unwashed wool, and the exhalations of all the life sheltered within. It is time for the great cleaning. This is not just hiding. This is a ritual of purification. You are sweeping out the stagnant energy of the hibernation. You are making room for the vibrant, busy energy of the spring. You take the straw broom. It is made of bundled broom straw or a heather tied tightly with cord. The sound it makes is dry and rustling. You begin to sweep the earthen floor. Swish, 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 the fine dust of ash, dried rushes, stray wool fibers, and the remnants of meals are gathered. The broom moves in wide, rhythmic arcs. You sweep from the corners toward the hearth. This is the last of the winter's waste. You gather it into a wooden shovel and carry it outside. Outside. The mud is everywhere. It is the glorious, heavy, sucking mud of thawed earth. Your boots sink into it slightly. It smells raw and organic. You dump the refuse onto the compost heap to be returned to the earth. You come back inside and look up. The roof beams are black. They are coated in the rich, velvety soot of the hearth. For 5 months, the smoke has been the protector, preserving the wood and killing the pests. Now, the soot must be cleaned away. You take a long wooden pole wrapped in a rough cloth. You reach up into the darkness of the rafters. You push the cloth against the wood. Scrape, scrape. The sound is soft but abrasive. The dry, flaky soot falls down like dark snow. It dusts your shoulders and lands on the floor. It is black and weightless. It smells strongly of smoke and old fire. You spend a long time cleaning the beams. You are wiping away the winter. You are wiping away the confinement. Each scrape of the cloth is an act of release. Next, the bedding, the old rush bedding, the straw that has absorbed the damp and the warmth of the winter, must be cleared. It has become stale. This is a heavy task. You strip the woolen blankets. They are heavy and dense. You carry them outside into the fresh air. You lay them on the fence to air out. The chill is gone from the air. but the wind is enough to carry away the old musty scent. The old straw from the beds is dug out. It is dry on the bottom, but damp and compacted on the top. It is carried out in bundles. It is thrown onto the yard. Now the floor is bare dirt. You bring in fresh straw. You lay it down in thick layers. It is clean and golden. It smells sweet, like dry sunlight. The fresh straw crackles when you walk on it. Crunch, crunch, the entire cottage smells new. The stale, smoky air is replaced by the scent of fresh straw and the hint of damp, clean earth. You decide to refresh the walls. You take a bucket of water mixed with lime. Lime is a brilliant white powder made from burnt limestone. When mixed with water, it makes a thin milky wash. You dip a piece of cloth into the lime wash. You apply it to the interior clay walls. The soot-stained brown walls are transformed instantly into brilliant white. You paint slowly. The sound of the damp cloth dragging across the clay is a soft squish and a light scrape. You cover the whole wall. The light reflects off the white. The room is suddenly brighter than it has been all winter. It feels enormous. The scent of the lime wash is strong. It is mineral and clean. It is the smell of cleanliness. It is an antiseptic. It purifies the air. You move slowly around the room, applying the whitewash. You are sealing the house for the new season. You are making it pure for the return of the light. You wash the wooden spoons and bowls that have been wiped clean for months, but not truly washed. You use the warm water from the hearth and the handful of wood ash, which acts as a mild soap. The wood of the bowls is smooth and warm. The water is grey with the soot and grease of the winter. You rinse the bowls with clean water and set them to dry on a ledge near the window. They gleam softly in the brightened light. They are ready for the spring meals. You look at the hearth. The stones around it are brushed clean. The fire is still burning, but it is a small, neat fire now. Not the roaring furnace of December. It is a worker fire, not a survival fire. The sound of your own breathing is loud in the clean space. It is deep and satisfying. You have thrown off the heavy blanket of the winter. You feel lighter. You feel ready. The windows are still covered by the oiled parchment, but the brightness outside suggests that soon you might be able to leave them open during the day. Just a crack, to let the fresh, earthy air in. You sit down and rest. The work is done for the afternoon. You look at the clean walls. You feel the satisfaction of renewal. This cleansing prepares the mind as much as the house. It wipes the slate clean. It prepares you to receive the new bounty of the earth. You feel a profound, calm readiness. The smell of wet earth and fresh lime wash fills the cottage. The cleansing is complete. Now the work shifts from maintenance to preparation. You are looking forward, not inward. This is the ritual of the seed. You go to the larder. You pull out the small cloth sacks that were saved specifically for this moment. They are tied at the top with string. You untie the first one slowly. The knot resists slightly. You pull the string free. Inside are the peas. Small, hard, round green spheres. They rattle when you pour them into a smooth wooden bowl. Tiki dash, tiki dash, tiki dash, tiki. The sound is sharp and light. You run your fingers through the seeds. They are cool and dry. You are feeling for firmness. You are searching for a damage. Every single seed is vital. If this seed fails, the food fails. You gently pick out the shriveled, cracked, or insect-damaged seeds. These go to the chickens. You only save the best, the firmest, the roundest. These are the promises of the future. You think about the growth that is locked inside this small, dry package, a whole vine, a whole harvest. It is all contained in this tiny sphere. It is miraculous. You move to the next sack, beans. They are larger, kidney-shaped. They are smooth and heavy. They make a duller sound when they hit the bowl. Clunk, clunk. You examine them. Black beans, white beans, brown beans. You are looking for perfection. You move the seeds from one hand to the other. They are a treasure. They are your capital. They are the sum of last year's efforts and the potential of the next. This is a time for quiet counting. You measure out the seed corn by handfuls. 1 handful for this row. 1 handful for that plot. You must be accurate. If you use too much seed, the yield will be too dense. If you use too little, you will not feed the family. The calculation is quiet and internal. It is an intimate conversation with the earth, after the seeds, the tools. The long winter has allowed the tools to rest. Now they must be woken up. You bring the scythe into the cottage. The long wooden handle is smooth and dark, where it has been gripped by generations of hands. The blade is dull and slightly rusted from the moisture of the barn. You take the whetstone. It is a flat piece of dense, rough grey stone. You dip it in a small bucket of water. The stone absorbs the water. You can hear the sound of the stone drinking. You hold the blade steady. You place the whetstone against the metal. You begin to rub it along the edge. HSS, SSS, SSSSs. It is a long, sustained, wet whisper. The sound of metal meeting stone. The sound of a dull edge becoming sharp. The water runs down the blade, dark with rust and the grindings of the steel. You work slowly. The motion is rhythmic. It is a long, sliding stroke. HSS, SSSSSSSs. You are focused completely on the angle of the blade. It must be perfect. A dull scythe wastes the precious energy of the summer. A sharp scythe cuts swiftly and cleanly. You feel the slight vibration of the metal in your hands. You feel the heat generating between the stone and the steel. You turn the blade over. You do the other side. HSS, SSSSSSSs. The sound is relentless and satisfying. It is the sound of readiness. It is the sound of competence. You put down the stone. You run your finger gently along the new edge. It is sharp. It is fierce. It is ready to cut the future. You oil the blade with a bit of lard to protect it from the damp air. The oil shines on the metal. The blade is beautiful. You do the same with the axe, the heavy head of the axe. The wooden handle. You sharpen the edge. You check the wedge that holds the head to the handle. You tap it gently with a hammer to make sure it is tight. Tunk, tunk. The work is quiet, but the energy is high. This is the energy of anticipation. You think about the field, the heavy work that is coming, the turning of the earth, the planting, the weeding, the long, hot days. You are not afraid of the work, you welcome it. The work is the purpose of your life. The work is the guarantee of the next winter's survival. You step outside for a moment. You stand in the mud. You feel the soft weight of the mud around your boots. The air is still cool, but there is a gentle breeze. You listen to the sounds of the thawing earth. The drip, drip, drip is still there. But now you hear the sound of the breeze moving through the new, wet branches. It is a softer sound than the winter wind. A gentle whoosh. You smell the fresh, damp earth. The deep raw scent of the soil. It is rich with nutrients. It is waiting. You look up at the sun. It is a pale gold disk. It is not cold anymore. It is promising. You feel the psychological shift. The inward spiral of winter is reversed. The energy is moving outward. You are preparing to give your energy back to the land. You walk back into the cottage. You store the newly sharpened tools against the wall. They are poised. They are waiting. You sit down by the fire. You take the wooden bowl of seeds. You cradle it in your lap. The seeds are cool and hard. You hold them. They are hope. They are the light of the returning sun translated into matter. You close your eyes. You feel the weight of the tiny seeds. You visualize the deep black earth opening up to receive them. You visualize the green shoots emerging. You visualize the bounty. You breathe in slowly. You breathe out slowly. You are ready. The cottage is clean. The tools are sharp. The seeds are counted. The long winter has served its purpose. It has purified the home. It has rested the body. It has sharpened the mind. The days grow longer now with a beautiful, measurable speed. Each morning the sun rises a little earlier, stays a little longer, and shines a little brighter. The threat of a killing frost is diminishing. Today is the final vigil. The day you acknowledge the ending of the season of survival and the beginning of the season of growth. You are sitting by the hearth. The fire is tiny now. Just a small pile of coals with a thin wisp of smoke rising. You have decided not to bank it tonight. This is the last night it will burn continuously. Soon it will be allowed to die down during the day. You look around the cottage one last time with the eyes of the winter survivor. You look at the thick, rough clay walls. They were your protection. They stood firm against the wind and the snow. You feel gratitude for their humble strength. You look at the thick thatched roof. It kept you dry. It kept you warm. It filtered the smoke. You are thankful for the woven strength of the straw. You look at the chest where the grain was stored. The sack is low now, but it is not empty. It lasted the winter. You feel the immense relief of having made it. The tight knot in your stomach, the fear of running out, is finally loosening. You look at the blankets. They are clean and folded. They are resting now, ready for their long rest until the cold returns again. You touch the heavy wool. It feels like a trophy. You think about the lessons of the winter. Patience, the lesson of waiting for the light to return. Conservation, the lesson of valuing every single piece of wood, every grain of barley. Community, the lesson of needing others for warmth, for stories, for vigilance. The night is quiet, but it is not the deep, frozen silence of December. It is a waiting silence, a silence that holds the promise of sound. You go to the door, you reach for the bar, you hesitate. You decide to open the door fully. This is the first time all winter that the door will be left open for more than a few seconds. You lift the bar, the latch clicks, you pull the heavy door inward. The night air rushes in, but it is not cold, it is cool and moist. It smells of the earth and the distant scent of green things beginning to push through the soil. You step outside onto the mud threshold. You look up at the sky. The stars are still brilliant. But the moon is different. It is waxing. It is growing fuller. It is a symbol of increase and return. You listen to the night. You hear the small sounds that were buried by the storm. You hear the quiet croaking of a frog down by the small stream. Croak, croak. It is the first animal sound of the new season. It is soft but insistent. It is the sound of life starting up again. You stand there for a long time, letting the cool, fresh air cleanse the smoke from your lungs. You are shedding the winter skin. You feel the mud cool around your bare feet. It is a physical connection to the earth. You are grounded. You are no longer fighting the season. You are welcoming the next. You close your eyes and you see the vision of the field. The brown earth waiting. You feel the weight of the hoe in your hands. You feel the sun on your back. You feel the sharp sting of the muscle ache. And you welcome it all. You turn and look back at the cottage. It is a dark, low, simple shape. It is your vessel. It carried you through the storms. It is resting now. You step back inside. You close the door gently. There is no need for the bar anymore. The danger is gone. You walk to the hearth. The last coals are a faint red glow. You do not touch them. You let them die naturally. The fire has done its job. You go to the bed. You lay down on the new straw. You pull the blankets up. They feel lighter now. They feel like a memory. You close your eyes. You listen to the sounds outside. The drip of the melting roof, the soft croak of the frog. The house is quiet. The fire is going out. The seeds are waiting. You are at the end of the long winter. You breathe in the last deep, quiet breath of the season of rest. You breathe out. You sleep, a deep, relaxed sleep that is no longer about survival, but about preparation for the beautiful, intense work to come. We drift back to the core of the long winter. The days are short. The light is faint. The fire is the central sun of the cottage. The outdoor work is impossible. This is the time for craft. This is the time to create the containers and tools necessary for the next season. Today, we focus on the rhythm of the hand. We focus on the willow and the rush. The materials have been gathered since the autumn. Long, thin, pliant willow rods were cut and dried. Thick, broad rushes were pulled from the river bank. They are stored in a dry corner of the cottage, smelling like dry grass and dust. The work begins by preparing the materials. The willow rods must be softened. They are placed into a tub of water near the fire. You can hear the soft glug as the dry wood sinks beneath the surface. The wood slowly absorbs the moisture. The stiff rods become flexible. You reach into the water. The water is cool, but the rods are slick and smooth. You pull one out. You run your fingers along its length. It is now pliable. It is ready to bend. You sit cross-legged on the floor. You spread a clean cloth over your lap to protect your clothes from the damp wood. The task is weaving a basket. This is not fast work. It is work that requires presence and patience. It is an hours-long meditation. You begin with the base. You take 4 thick willow rods and lay them flat. You take 4 more and split them slightly in the center. You side the 2 groups together to form a cross. This is the heart of the basket. Now you take a thinner weaver rod. You begin to weave it around the cross. You hold the rod in your fingers. You bend it. You twist it, over, under, over, under. The motion is repetitive. It is soothing. It is the same rhythm as the drop spindle, but horizontal: snip, click, pull, rap. The sound is mostly the soft creak of the willow rods bending against each other. It is the soft whisper of the dry bark. You can feel the shape growing under your fingers. Slowly, the flat cross becomes slightly concave. The sides begin to rise. You must keep the tension even. If you pull too tight, the basket will buckle. If you pull too loose, it will fall apart. You are seeking perfect balance. The scent of the work is organic. It smells of wet wood and riverbank. It is a fresh scent that cuts through the heavier smell of smoke and tallow. The light is fading outside, but you continue to work by the firelight. The flickering light makes the willow cast long, thin shadows. The wood looks silver in the firelight. Your hands become tired. They cramp slightly from the constant pressure of bending the tough wood. You stop. You stretch your fingers. You rub the warmth of the fire into your palms. Then you return to the work. The work does not demand speed. It demands continuity. You notice the rhythmic sound of your own breathing while you work. It settles into the pattern of the weaving. Inhale, pull. Exhale, wrap. This basket you are making is not for beauty. It is for survival. It will carry the peas and the beans from the garden. It will hold the eggs. It will carry the firewood. It is a vessel of life. You look at the woven texture. The natural pattern created by the simple act of over and under. It is strong. It is flexible. It is designed to hold weight. You spend another long period working on the sides. They rise steadily. Your hands know exactly where to apply the pressure. The feeling of the basket taking shape is satisfying. It is the feeling of creating order out of chaos. You finish the rim. You bend the last rods over and tuck the ends neatly into the weave. You tap the finished rim with the heel of your hand. Thunk, thunk. It is solid. It is complete. You place the finished basket on the floor. You run your hand over its woven surface. It is slightly rough, but perfectly shaped. It is a victory of winter confinement. Now, the rush work. You take the dried rushes. They are softer than willow. They are used to weave mats. The rushes are laid flat. You weave them together to make a mat for the floor. This mat will trap the dust and the damp. It will be placed over the hard earthen floor to give a layer of softness. The sound of the rush weaving is different. It is a soft, dry rustle, rustle, rustle. It sounds like dry autumn leaves being swept across the ground. You are creating comfort. You are creating cleanliness. The work continues long after the sun has set. The rushlight throws a dim, yellow glow on your focused face. You were absorbed in the motion. The world outside is cold and dark, but here you are creating warmth and order with simple materials. The rhythm of the work is your anchor. It keeps you present. It keeps you calm. When you finally stop, you stretch out your cramped legs. You look at the objects you have made. A sturdy basket, a soft mat. You have transformed the raw materials of the earth into tools for living. You feel a quiet, profound exhaustion. It is the tiredness of good, focused work. You gather the leftover shavings and rush trimmings. You feed them to the fire. They flare up quickly, a small burst of light and heat. Whoosh, you go to bed. The finished basket sits by the door. It is ready for the spring. You sleep deeply, easily. We move deeper into the sensory world of the cottage. The air is warm and dense. It is not just fire and smoke that dominate the scent. It is transformation. The winter is the season of slow chemistry. It is the time when things change under the influence of time and temperature. It is the power of the hidden life within food, the bacteria, the yeasts that turn simple ingredients into complex necessities. Listen for the subtle sounds of the cellar or the cool corner of the cottage. There is a low, persistent sound, glug, bub bub bub, hiss. This is the sound of fermentation. The sound of ale brewing. You are making a batch of beer. Not the clear, light beer of today, but a thick, nourishing, low-alcohol brew essential for hydration and calories. Water in the Middle Ages was often risky. Ale was safe. The process is slow. You have mashed the grain, boiled the malted barley and water in the great cauldron. Now the sweet liquid, the wort, sits in a large wooden barrel near the hearth. A piece of linen cloth covers the top of the barrel. It is slightly raised in the center. Underneath, the yeast is eating the sugars. It is breathing out carbon dioxide. This invisible gas pushes the cloth up. You lean close to the barrel. You hear the active hissing sound of the bubbles rising to the surface and bursting. You smell the rich, bready, slightly sour scent of the yeast working. You press your ear against the side of the wooden barrel. You can hear a faint, low rumbling sound. It is the sound of the liquid churning gently with the release of the gas. The beer is alive. This warm, yeasty smell permeates the cottage. It is a comforting scent. It means health and safety. Next to the brewing barrel, there is a large earthenware pot sealed with a wooden lid. This is the sauerkraut, cabbage chopped fine, layered with salt, and left to its own devices. The cabbage is fermenting. It is creating lactic acid. This acid preserves the cabbage and gives it a sharp, clean, sour flavor. You lift the heavy wooden lid slightly. Whoosh, the smell is immediate. It is sharp and vinegary. It clears the air in your sinuses. It is a powerful, healthy smell. You push the lid back down. The sauerkraut is a vital source of vitamin C, protecting the family from the scurvy that threatens during the months without fresh vegetables. It is simple chemistry, but a survival tool. The dough for the bread is also part of this chemistry. You maintain the sourdough starter. It lives in a wooden bowl covered with a piece of cloth. It is a living, breathing thing. You lift the cloth. The dough has a thin, sour film on top. You can see the tiny bubbles forming in the dense mass. You stir it with your hand. It is sticky and stretchy. The smell is deeper than the ale. It is intensely sour and yeasty. You feed it with a little fresh flour and water. You mix it slowly. Squish, 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 the sound of the wet dough being kneaded. The slow, heavy movement of the thick paste. You cover it again. You place it near the fire. It will rise slowly, quietly, until it is ready to become the next loaf. Fermentation is the perfect winter process. It is done in the warm dark. It requires only patience and a steady temperature. It uses the quiet forces of nature to preserve the food. You sit back and listen to the symphony of the small life in the cottage. The crackle of the fire, the breathing of the sleepers, the rumble of the brewing ale, the slow bubbling of the fermenting pickles. It is a low, continuous drone, a deep bass note to the sharp melodies of daily life. You check the fire. You add a small piece of wood. The fire is the engine of the entire system. It creates the heat that drives the yeast. You think about the warmth trapped inside the clay walls. It is a constant, gentle warmth. It is exactly the environment needed for these slow transformations. You take a small sip of the developing ale from a wooden spoon. It is still sweet, but you can taste the sharp, sour tang of the yeast. It is working. The drink is cloudy and thick. It is medicine and nourishment combined. You feel a profound, quiet contentment. You are the steward of these hidden forces. You control the temperature, you provide the materials. But the magic itself is done by unseen, microscopic life. You are living in harmony with the small, quiet powers of the universe. The smell of the ale barrel is your perfume. The low hiss of the fermenting liquid is your music. You are safe, you are sustained, you are warm. We turn our attention to the softest, warmest end of the cottage. The animal enclosure. Even in the height of the cold, the cow must be tended. The cow is another essential hearth. Her large body radiates a slow, massive heat. You walk to the partition. The air here is warmer and humid. It smells of hay, clean manure, and warm milk. It is a rich, organic smell. You kneel down by the cow. She is lying on a thick bed of fresh straw. She turns her head and looks at you with large, dark, calm eyes. Her breath is slow and deep. Whoo, whoo. You rub your hand along her back. Her coat is thick and slightly coarse. The warmth radiating from her is a physical blessing. You feel the slow rise and fall of her ribs. This is the bond of survival. You protect her from the frost and the wolves. She provides the essential fat and protein that sustains you. It is time for the milking. You bring the small, three-legged stool and the wooden bucket. The wood of the stool is polished smooth by years of use. You sit down beside the cow. You talk to her softly. Your voice is a low, gentle murmur. It is just the sound of affection and habit. You begin to milk. Your fingers enclose the teat. You pull down with a gentle, rhythmic pressure. The sound of the milk hitting the empty wooden bucket is sharp and loud in the quiet room. Squirt, 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 ping. Squirt, 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 ping. The sound echoes softly. As the bucket fills, the pitch of the sound changes. The milk hits the milk, not the wood. The sound becomes softer. It is a low, rich splash. Splash, splosh. This is the sound of deep bounty. The milk is warm from the cow's body. It smells clean and sweet. You milk until the sound changes again. Until the rhythm slows. Until the cow is comfortable. You carry the bucket of warm, foamy milk back to the main room. Some of the milk is for immediate drinking, but most of it is for the long-term winter project. Butter. The cream, which has been skimmed from the milk over the past few days, sits in a tall wooden churn. It is cool and thick. It smells slightly sour. Making butter is another act of rhythmic transformation. It takes time, it takes strength, and it is the most meditative of chores. You lift a long wooden dasher. It has a round disc at the bottom. You insert it into the churn. The motion is simple, up and down, up and down. The sound is deep, heavy, and rhythmic. The disc slams into the thick cream. Thump thump, thump thump, thump thump. The sound is steady and slow. It is the metronome of the midwinter. You do not rush. If you churn too fast, the butter will be soft and spoiled. It must be a slow, deliberate rhythm. The movement requires your full attention. You stand and churn. The work is physically tiring. Your arms and shoulders ache from the repetition, but you do not stop. You let the rhythm carry you. Thump thump, thump thump. The sound blends with the gentle breathing of the people sleeping in the corner. It blends with the low crackle of the fire. For a long time, the sound does not change. It is just the thick cream resisting the motion. Sluish, sluish. You feel the change in the churn before you hear it. Suddenly, the resistance lessens. The rhythm becomes easier. You hear a new sound, the splattering of liquid. The cream has broken. The fat particles have clumped together. You have butter. The sound of the churning is now light and airy. The dasher is splashing the thin, watery buttermilk. Splick, splack, splick. You stop. You lift the dasher. The golden, firm lump of butter is sitting on the disc. You scrape it into a wooden bowl. The butter is cold and heavy. It smells rich and clean. You work the butter with a wooden paddle. You press out the last drops of buttermilk. You add salt. The salt preserves it and brings out the flavor. The final texture is smooth and firm. You press the butter into a cool wooden mold carved with a simple design, a flower, or a geometric pattern. This is the golden bounty of the winter. This butter will last 4 weeks. It is pure energy. It is the taste of summer grass stored in the deepest part of the winter. You clean the churn, the buttermilk is kept. It is a sharp, nutritious drink. The cow has given her gift. The work is complete. You feel the pleasant ache of your arms. The tiredness is warm and heavy. You sit down by the fire. You take a slice of the dark bread. You spread the fresh, cold butter thickly over the top. The salt crunches softly. You take a bite. The flavor is intense. The rich, clean fat of the butter. The sourness of the rye bread. The comforting warmth of the fire. You are sustained. You are warm. You are alive. You listen to the quiet breathing of the cow, the slow, deep rhythm of her life. You close your eyes. You feel the slow thump-thump of the churning still echoing in your memory. It is a calming, internal rhythm. You rest. You are secure in the knowledge of the food stored, the crafts completed, and the warmth maintained. In the long darkness of the winter, light is not a commodity. It is a carefully managed resource. It is precious, and it must be created by hand. Today we focus on the slow, meticulous process of bringing light into the dark. We are making candles. The source of the light is tallow, rendered fat from the cow or sheep. It sits in a large metal pot near the hearth. The fat is warm, liquid, and slightly opaque. You take a length of cotton or a hemp string, the wick. You tie several wicks to a thin wooden rod. You hold the rod over the pot. You dip the wicks into the warm, liquid tallow. Plop. They sink into the fat, absorbing the warmth and the oil. You lift them out slowly. They are instantly covered in a thin, liquid layer of fat. The fat begins to cool and solidify in the colder air. They are not yet candles. They are just wicks. You wait. You allow the layer to cool. Then you dip them again. Plop. You pull them out. This is the rhythmic work of creating light. It is slow. It is repetitive. You cannot rush it. If you dip too soon, the warm tallow will melt the layer underneath. If you wait too long, the candle will be misshapen. You find the perfect, slow rhythm. Dip, wait, dip, wait. The sound is minimal. Just the soft plop of the wick hitting the warm fat, and the soft clink as the wooden rod rests on the edge of the pot. The scent, however, is strong. It is the rich, slightly heavy smell of warm animal fat. It is the smell of effort and warmth. It is the smell of light. As the layers build up, the wicks become thicker. They begin to look like candles. They are uneven. They are not perfect cylinders. They are handmade. They carry the shape of your effort. This work will continue 4 hours until the candles are thick enough to burn for a full night. They are then stored in a cool place, ready to be rationed for the darkest hours. Next to the candles, we attend to the rushlights. These are the lights of the common hours. They are made from the pith of rushes gathered from the marsh. The pith is dipped in fat, often the less refined grease. You trim the rushlight. You use small iron shears. The wick is carbonized. It is black and brittle. You cut the black tip away. Snip. The sound is a tiny, precise click. When you light the rushlight, it burns with a small, sputtering flame. It gives a weak, yellow light. It is just enough to see the food, to mend a sock, to talk quietly. It is not enough to read or draw. The rushlight enforces simplicity. You watch the flame. It is constantly moving. It dances in the slight drafts of the cottage. The shadow it casts on the wall flickers and jumps. The world is constantly in motion. Even when you are still, you notice the rushlight holder. It is a piece of iron that grips the rush. It holds it at a slight angle. The holder is set into a piece of wood. It is a simple, ingenious tool designed to maximize the life of the light. The light itself is fragile. It is a tiny, controlled fire. It must be protected from drafts. It must be attended to. If you are not present, the light goes out. The light is a constant, physical reminder of the need for vigilance. You sit by the small, steady glow of the rushlight. You watch the tallow melt down the side of the rush. It forms a small pool of liquid fat at the base. You are quiet, you are thinking, but your thoughts are slow. The quality of your thought mirrors the quality of the light. It is gentle. It is close to the ground. It is focused only on the immediate circle of warmth and need. You close your eyes briefly. When you open them, the light seems incredibly bright. You realize how completely your senses have adapted to the darkness. You live on the edge of the night. The subtle scent of the burning tallow is a comforting one now. It is the smell of the home fire. It is the signature of safety. The work of maintaining the light is never-ending. It is a slow, quiet, repetitive labor. But every time you light a new candle, you are making a commitment to the morning. You are asserting that the darkness will not win. You are the guardian of the flame in the profound quiet of the winter cottage, where the outside world is muffled by snow and distance. The most intimate sounds become the most prominent. We focus now on the sound of the human body. Sit down by the fire and listen to the simplest act of survival, eating. You have a bowl of pottage. It is thick, warm, and steaming. It contains oats, beans, and perhaps a small piece of salted pork. You eat with a wooden spoon. The sound of the spoon scraping the bottom of the bowl is soft. Skr, skr, a gentle rhythm. You lift the food to your mouth. The spoon touches your lips, then the sound of chewing. It is a soft, wet munch, munch, the sound of your own jaw working. The slow breaking down of the coarse grains. When you drink the thick broth, you swallow. A small, intimate glug in your throat. The sounds of eating are not rushed. They are deliberate. They are necessary. They are the sounds of fuel being consumed to maintain the heat. Now, listen to the sound of breathing. When the air is cold, the breath is amplified. When someone is asleep near you, their breathing is deep and steady. Whoosh, whoosh, the rhythmic pushing of air in and out of the lungs. It is the sound of life itself. The rise and fall of the chest is a visual rhythm. When someone shifts in their sleep, they may let out a soft sigh. A release of tension, the sound of a body settling into complete rest. You notice the sound of friction against the heavy wool clothing. When you move your arm, the fabric makes a low, heavy rubbing sound, rub, rub. It is the sound of rough fiber against rough fiber. It is the sound of warmth. Feel the contrast of temperatures on your skin. You are sitting close to the hearth. The heat on your face and front is intense. Your back, however, which is against the clay wall, is cool. You move your hand from your warm chest to the cold wall. The wall feels strangely moist and solid. It pulls the heat away from your skin. You rub your hands together briskly. F-F-F-F-R-R-R-R. The sound is dry and fast. The friction generates a quick, sharp heat. You are acutely aware of the body heat being generated by the group. When the family is gathered, the heat from multiple bodies creates a warm, palpable pocket of air. You feel the slow exchange of warmth. This collective heat is as important as the fire. You listen to the quiet, subtle sound of the heartbeat. If you lie down on your side, you can sometimes hear the soft, rhythmic thump-thump of your own heart against the straw. It is the secret engine of your survival. The body is a machine, and in the quiet of the medieval home, you hear all its workings. The slow, deep hum of digestion after a meal. The small creak of a knee joint when you stand up after a long time sitting. There is a profound acceptance of these sounds. They are not embarrassing. They are simply the sounds of being alive in a quiet world. You watch the way the candlelight catches the small, slow exhale of breath on the window parchment. A small puff of white vapor against the yellow light. You sit completely still. You try to listen only to your own internal sounds. The low ringing in your ears, the slight flutter of an eyelid, the gentle whoosh of blood moving through your arteries. This deep listening is a form of internal meditation. It anchors you to your own existence. It makes you feel solid and real in the abstract darkness. You close your eyes and let the warmth of the fire envelop you. You let the slow, steady breathing of the house become your own. You are a warm, living vessel in the cold, quiet void. The children of the medieval winter do not run, they do not shout. The small space and the high value of heat and quiet enforce a specific kind of play, the quiet game. These games are not just entertainment. They are lessons in patience and focus. The children are gathered in a corner near the hearth. The floor here is relatively clean. Their favorite game is knuckle bones. These are the small, irregular ankle joints of a sheep or goat, cleaned and polished. They are like dice, but their shape makes their landing unpredictable. The sound of the game is light and rhythmic. The bones are tossed up in the air, they are caught. They are rolled, click, clack, roll, tumble. The sound is dry and sharp. It is the sound of small, focused movement. The children speak in whispers. They are counting the bones caught. They are concentrating intensely. They are learning the laws of physics and chance in miniature. The atmosphere is one of intense, but silent competition. Another game is played with string. It is the cat's cradle. A simple loop of string passed between two pairs of hands, creating complex, temporary geometric patterns. The sound here is almost non-existent. It is the slight zing of the string it is pulled taut. It is the soft tap of fingertips maneuvering the thread. You watch the children's faces. They are close together. They are sharing the concentration. The only sound is the soft, low voice of the older child teaching the younger the next pattern, the diamond, the cup, the fence. Slowly, hold your fingers still. The whisper is clear. This game teaches extreme finesse and patience. The patterns are fragile. One small jerk and the whole structure collapses into a tangle of string. The whole house is like the string game, a fragile structure that requires steady, careful hands to maintain. They play with pebbles, smooth, river-washed stones. They toss them up and catch them in small, patterned groupings. The sound is a gentle clink of stone on stone. Clink, clink, clink. They are learning geometry. They are learning speed and hand-eye coordination. But they are learning it quietly. The intensity is internal. There are riddles and rhymes. These games are purely auditory. They are whispered in turn. The answers are given in a soft voice, the low voice of the person telling the riddle. I have cities, but no houses. I have mountains, but no trees. I have water, but no fish. What am I? The soft, slow answer, a map. These games teach memory and language. They pass down the history and the culture without needing physical resources. They are the portable wealth of the medieval mind. The children are sitting near the hearth, their shadows flickering on the wall. They are content in the close proximity and the quiet task. They do not demand outside stimulation. Their world is the small circle of firelight. You look at them and feel the quiet satisfaction of their presence. They are the continuation. They are the future farmers and weavers and caregivers. And they are learning the essential winter skill, stillness. To be still is to save heat. To be still is to save fuel. To be still is to listen to the whispers of the house, the sound of their quiet. Occasional laughter is the most beautiful sound in the cottage. It is soft, like a handful of feathers dropped on a smooth cloth. He. It is quickly stifled, returned to the quiet concentration of the game. The rhythmic click-clack of the knuckle bones continues. The steady, hypnotic background noise of the enduring winter. You close your eyes and listen to the sound of children being still. It is the sound of peace. It is the sound of hope contained and managed. The long night passes over the small cottage, and the children play on, quietly, intently, preparing for the spring. The woodpile is not merely a stack of logs. It is a monument to past labor and a shield against present death. It is the visible measure of your wealth and security. Today, we go outside into the chill air to attend to the wood. The snow has melted from the top layers of the stack, leaving the wood exposed to the damp air, but the core of the pile is dry. You run your hand over the surface of the logs. They are rough, dark, and cold. You are not chopping down trees now. That work was completed in the autumn. This is the maintenance of the supply. It is about conservation and preparation. You select a large, sturdy log of oak. It is heavy. You lift it and carry it to the chopping block, a sturdy stump rooted firmly in the ground. The sound of the dry, heavy log hitting the block is solid and final. Thunk. You do not need to split the entire log. You need kindling small, dry pieces that catch fire quickly and help the larger logs burn cleanly. You take the heavy axe. You place the blade precisely on the edge of the large log. You raise the axe high. You bring it down. The sound is not the sharp, aggressive crack of felling a tree. It is the deep, clean thwack of dry wood splitting along its grain. Thwack. The piece of kindling flies off and lands on the clean snow with a soft, dry clatter. You repeat the motion. The rhythm is slow and deliberate. You are aware of your breathing, your muscles, and the weight of the tool. Thwack. Clatter. Thwack. Clatter. The wood has a specific smell when it is freshly split. It is clean, dry, and slightly sweet. It is the distilled essence of the forest. The cold air carries this scent sharply. You gather the pieces of kindling in your arms. The dry bark is rough against your wool sleeve. You carry the bundle back to the cottage, placing it carefully in the woodbox by the hearth. The sound of the kindling settling is a dry, delicate rattle of small pieces falling into place. You examine the main woodpile again. You ensure the logs are stacked tightly and cleanly. The snow must not touch the main stock. You tap a log with a smaller piece of wood. Tap, tap, tap. The sound is high and hollow. This tells you the wood is dry and ready to burn. Dry wood burns cleanly, giving heat, not just smoke. You look at the vastness of the stack. This pile is the only thing that stands between your family and the deep, permanent cold. You treat it with reverence. You think about the time required to create this pile. The hours of sweat, the blisters on your hands, the months of drying. It is all contained in this tight, dark stack. You pick up a single log of birch. The bark is thin and papery. You rub your thumb over the bark. It is smooth and cool. Birch is excellent for lighting the fire. It has natural oils that catch quickly. You tear a small piece of the birch bark. The sound is a quiet ripper-dry, gentle tear. You tuck this piece of tinder under the kindling in the woodbox. You return to the cottage. You close the heavy door. The outdoor cold is sealed away. You kneel by the hearth. You take the bellows. You use them to encourage the banked embers. The sound of the bellows is a slow, rhythmic whoosh of air being pushed onto the glowing red coals. The embers glow brighter, a deep, pulsating orange. They are ready to receive the dry kindling you just prepared. You place the birch bark and the small pieces of kindling gently onto the embers. The fire catches with a soft, hungry crackle. It is a beautiful, quick sound. The fire is fed by the woodpile. The woodpile is fueled by the vigilance of the worker. The cycle is complete. You feel the dry heat of the new flame on your face. You sit back and listen to the sound of the wood burning. It is a lively, comforting music. It is the sound of life being sustained. In the deep winter, time is liquid. It is not segmented by the precise tick of the clock, but by the slow, natural rhythms of the cosmos and the body. We are listening to the sound of time passing. You are sitting quietly on the bench. You look at the wall. The sunlight, filtered through the oiled parchment, casts a patch of pale, diffuse light on the interior clay. You watch the shadows. The movement of this patch of light is your first clock. It moves incredibly slowly. You notice that since you sat down, the shadow of the window frame has moved only the width of your thumb across the floor. This observation teaches you patience. You cannot rush the sun. Time is a gentle river, not a mill race. The sun tells you the large divisions: dawn, noon, dusk. The light changes in color. Pale blue at morning, yellow-white at noon, long orange at evening. Your body is your second clock. You feel the slow onset of hunger, the faint, hollow ache in your stomach. That tells you it is the hour for the main meal, the dinner, which happens around noon. You feel the heavy eyelids and the deep, pulling tiredness after the sun sets. That is the time for rest. Your body is perfectly synchronized to the scarcity and the light. This is an ancient, accurate clock, but there is an external rhythm that breaks the silence. A sound that comes from the distant world. You listen for the church bell. It is far away, perhaps in the center of the village or a nearby monastery. The snow and the distance muffle the sound, but you can still hear it. Bong dot 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 bong dot 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 bong. It is a deep, resonating sound. It is slow and solemn. This is the canonical hours. The bell is calling out the official time of the day, marking the hours of prayer and work. You might hear prime, the morning hour, when the sun first starts to push against the dark. The sound is a quiet command to rise. You might hear vespers, the evening hour, marking the official end of the workday as the light fails. The sound is a deep, slow release. The bell sound is not constant. It is spaced out over hours. You listen for the echo. The sound travels over the silent, snow-covered fields. The distance distorts the tone, making it soft and ethereal. The bell is the only sound that ties you to the larger world, the social world, the Christian world. It tells you that even in your isolation, the world is moving on the same schedule. You look at the hearth. The fire itself is a timer. The amount of fuel you put on determines how long you can stay awake. The speed at which the rushlight tallow melts is a tiny, local clock. You are constantly managing small reservoirs of time. You sit completely still and try to hear the bell again. You strain your ears against the silence. Is that matins, or just the wind? The lack of precise, mechanical time makes you appreciate the fullness of the moment. You are not rushing to meet an artificial deadline. You are living according to the pace of the earth. You take a deep breath. You feel the warmth of the cottage air. You feel the slow circulation of the blood in your hands. This absence of mechanical time is a gift of the winter. It allows for deep, focused work, like the rhythmic churning of butter or the weaving of the basket. The work dictates the time, not the other way around. You look again at the shadow on the wall. It has moved a little more. The day is progressing, slowly, inevitably. You are patient, you are anchored. You are listening to the slow, deep heartbeat of the world. We return to the quiet of the night, the deepest silence of the winter. You are performing the night watch again, or perhaps you have woken in the middle of the night. You step outside, briefly, into the intense cold. You look up. This is the largest clock of all, the night sky. The stars and the moon. The air is so clear, so dry, that the stars are fierce. They do not twinkle. They shine with a hard, cold, white light. They look close enough to touch. You identify the constellations. The Great Bear Ursa Major is your hour hand. You know that as the night progresses, the Great Bear slowly rotates around the North Star. You can tell the time simply by looking at where the stars are positioned above the horizon. The sky is a vast, natural astrolabe. You listen to the absolute silence of the universe. There is no sound from this height. Only the cold, brilliant light. This silence is profound. It makes the gentle whoosh of your own breathing seem very loud. You look at the moon. The moon is the true calendar. Its phase is full, half, crescent dictate the rhythm of the entire year. You are watching the moon now. It is a perfect, silver disk, full. The light it casts on the snow is so bright, you can almost read by it. The shadows cast by the trees are sharp and black. The world is rendered in silver and black ink. The peasants look at the moon for omens and guidance. You know that you do not plant crops when the moon is waning, only when it is growing fuller. The moon controls the tides of the ocean, and you believe it also controls the life force within the seed and the sap. This is the great, slow rhythm that governs your life. The moon controls the time for shearing the sheep, the time for harvesting the medicinal herbs, the time for planting the wheat. The whole world is synchronized to the rotation of this cold, silver sphere. You think about the tiny, warm speck of your cottage below you, and you look at the vast, cold, indifferent expanse of the sky above. You feel incredibly small, but you also feel completely connected. You are part of this enormous, slow-moving machine. You stand there until the chill penetrates your heavy wool. The cold is a reminder of the earth's harshness, but the stars are a reminder of its permanence. You return inside. You close the door quietly. The warmth of the cottage air is a shock. You sit down by the dying embers. The memory of the starlight is still in your eyes. The image of the full, perfect moon is printed on your mind. The deep silence of the cosmos settles into the room. It makes the soft, slow breathing of the sleepers feel even more important. This is the sound of life defying the infinite void. You wrap your cloak around you. You are at the edge of sleep. You let the rhythm of the stars, the slow rotation of the Great Bear, pull your thoughts into a slow, hypnotic spiral. You are part of the vast, quiet cycle. You are safe. You are observed. You are held by the cosmos. You sleep. The fire is banked low. The day's chores are finished. The crafting tools are put away. The children are settled. This is the sacred time of the medieval winter, the time for the story. Storytelling is not entertainment. It is memory. It is history. It is the wisdom of the ancestors passed from the warm breath of one person to the quiet, focused attention of the next. The room is dark save for the flickering light of the hearth. The shadows are long and constantly shifting. They play across the faces of the listeners, making their features mysterious and ancient. The storyteller begins. The voice is low and deep. It is not raised. It must be clear, but soft enough to encourage intimacy and quiet attention. The sound of the storyteller clearing their throat is gentle, a hem, a soft, dry sound. The narrative voice finds its rhythm. It is a slow, steady cadence. The words are spoken with great care. Each syllable is distinct. The voice rises slightly for a moment of danger, and then falls back to a low, comforting drone for the long journey. You are listening intently. You are completely still. You can hear the collective sound of listening in the room. It is the sound of shared breath. When the story is tense, the breathing becomes shallow and quick. When the danger passes, there is a collective, quiet release of breath. The storyteller uses pauses masterfully, a long silence before a great turning point. The fire crackles in the gap, and the small sound is amplified by the sudden void of the human voice. Crackle, pop. The silence is just as important as the word. It allows the images, the frozen forest, the wandering night, the hidden treasure, to form fully in the mind. The story is being painted in the dark canvas of your imagination. You hear the sound of the storyteller's hands. They are resting on their knees, but sometimes they move. A soft tap of the fingernail on the coarse wool of their trousers to emphasize a point. A slight rub of the palms together before a new chapter begins. The stories are long. They stretch across the deep hours of the night. They are stories of the heroes who endured worse winters. They are stories of the saints who survived on faith alone. They are stories of warning tales of those who strayed from the path and were taken by the frost. You feel the collective warmth of the attention. All minds are focused on the same thread of narrative. This concentration is a kind of communal heat. It makes the room feel warmer than the fire alone. When the story reaches its climax, the children let out a small, contained gasp. A sharp intake of air. It is quickly swallowed, but it is a mark of the story's power. Finally, the story ends. It concludes on a note of quiet finality. The voice drops to a whisper for the very last sentence. A long, comfortable silence follows. No one speaks immediately. The world of the story just settled down. The images must fade back into the shadows. Then, a soft sigh from the storyteller, a heavy, satisfying release of the energy poured into the words. A gentle murmur passes around the room, small quiet comments. Ah, yes, it was a powerful tale. The time for talk is short. The story has done its work. It has filled the night with meaning. It has passed the torch of memory. You settle back, the images from the story still moving behind your closed eyes. The voice of the storyteller fades into the rhythm of your own thoughts. The words have warmed you from the inside out. While the vast majority of knowledge is carried in the memory and the voice, there are rare, precious objects that hold knowledge in a different way. We turn now to the written word. A book or a scroll is not common in the peasant cottage. It is a treasure. It is often a record of the family's land, a simple religious text, or a calendar passed down through generations. You have access to a small, heavy volume. It is bound in leather. The leather is dry and cracked. You run your hand over the cover. The leather is cool and rough. It smells faintly of dust and dried animal skin. You open the book. The hinges creak softly. Creak, a dry, tight sound. The pages are made of parchment stretched, dried animal skin. The pages are thick and opaque. They are stiff. You lean close to the book. You can smell the ink. It is a faint, metallic, earthy scent made from soot, oak galls, and iron salts. It is the scent of permanence. You must hold a rushlight or candle very close to read the words. The light is focused intensely on the page. The letters are written by hand, unevenly, carefully. The ink is black and dark against the creamy, aged parchment. You trace a line of text with your finger. The sound is a soft, dry whisper of your skin against the stiff page. You turn a page. The parchment is heavy. You must use two hands. The sound of the heavy page turning is a dull, dry thwomp as it settles onto the other pages. The air it moves smells of the dust trapped between the sheets. Thwomp. You are reading about the saints, or perhaps the appropriate time to sow rye in the spring. You are pulling specific knowledge out of the darkness. This book is a connection to a world far outside the cottage. It connects you to the monastery, the scriptorium, the great centers of learning. But here, in the firelight, it is simply a tool of survival and faith. You run your hand over the edge of the book. You feel the cuts in the parchment, the tiny nicks where the scribe's quill slipped centuries ago. These imperfections make the book feel real. You imagine the scribe working in a freezing, bright hall, illuminated by a high window, his fingers stiff with cold, carefully forming these letters. And now, you are reading them in the humid warmth of your own home. The connection across time is palpable. You close the book. The heavy cover settles with a soft thud. You tie the leather thongs that keep it shut. You think about the scent of knowledge. It is not the clean, sterile scent of modern paper. It is the smell of animals and earth and fire. It is a primal scent. You look at a small wooden tablet. It is coated with a thin layer of wax. You take a simple stylus, a piece of pointed bone or wood. You practice writing your name. The sound of the stylus scratching the wax is soft and wet, scurririch. The wax is warm and yielding. The letters are shallow trenches in the soft surface. This is temporary knowledge, a note, a count, a simple phrase. The sound is immediate and localized. You wipe the tablet clean with the blunt end of the stylus. The knowledge is erased with a soft smudge of the wax. The contrast between the heavy permanence of the parchment book and the temporary nature of the wax tablet is a lesson in itself. Some truths are meant to last 1,000 years. Other details are only meant for the hour. You sit back. You hold the book in your lap. The faint, dry scent of the parchment fills your nostrils. You are surrounded by the sense of winter survival, the smoke, the tallow, the fermentation, and the slow, dry perfume of preserved knowledge. All of these scents are signals of safety. You close your eyes, and the quiet scent of the old ink and leather allows the wisdom to sink deeper into your mind. The night has advanced to its deepest hour. The stories have been told. The light has been managed. The heavy book has been put away. Now, there is only the final act of winter survival, deep, regenerative rest. We are guiding the body and mind into the most profound sleep. The fire is almost gone. It is a low, faint hiss of a few dying embers under a thin layer of ash. The room is descending into absolute darkness. You are lying on the straw bedding. The wool blankets are heavy. They hold the heat of the day close to your body. You feel the pressure of the wool. It is a comforting, secure weight. You close your eyes. You listen to the last sounds of the night, the rhythmic, deep breathing of the family is the final auditory anchor. Whoosh, whoosh, it is slow. It is steady. It is the sound of life operating on its most basic, efficient level. You begin to synchronize your own breathing to this deep, slow rhythm. Inhale, the air is cool and smells faintly of smoke and clean straw. Exhale, the air is warm and slow. You feel your body becoming heavy, your limbs relax. Your feet feel heavy and warm under the thick blankets. You think about the seeds sleeping in the earth beneath the snow. They are quiet, they are still. But they are not dead, they are dreaming of the spring. They are gathering the energy for the explosive growth that is to come. Your body is like the seed. It is using this deep rest to repair itself, to conserve the precious heat, to prepare for the labor of the summer. You visualize the cold, dry air outside the walls. You feel the presence of the solid clay and the thick thatch. They are a perfect, protective shield. You are sealed away from the frost. You are untouchable. Let your thoughts slow down. Let them become like the falling snow, soft, slow and silent. You feel the slight warmth radiating from the people lying near you, the shared, human heat. You are part of a warm, collective animal body. This closeness is safety. You are falling into the deep well of the winter sleep. Your body is heavy. Your mind is quiet. The sound of the embers dies out completely. The cottage is now silent, save for the deep, slow breathing. You are dreaming. You are dreaming of the color green. You are dreaming of the sound of running water that is not dripping, but flowing freely. You are dreaming of the feeling of sunlight directly on your bare skin. These dreams are the programming for the spring. They are the energy being gathered. You sink deeper into the straw. The scent of the dried rushes is your lullaby. You are completely still. You are completely safe. The quiet darkness holds you. You sleep. You rest. You regenerate. Of all the necessary chores in the winter, one is the most relentless, the most basic. It is the sound of turning the earth's bounty into the bread of life. It is the sound of grinding the grain. We focus on the quern, the simple hand mill. It is made of two heavy, circular stones. The bottom stone is fixed. The top stone has a large wooden handle inserted into it. It is the weight of these two stones, rotating against each other, that breaks the grain. You measure out the day's portion of barley or rye. The hard, dry kernels are poured into the hole in the top stone. The sound of the grain hitting the stone is sharp and hard. Click, clack, rattle, you grasp the wooden handle. You begin to turn the top stone. This is not a fast movement. It is a slow, powerful push and pull that uses the strength of your whole body. The sound of the grinding begins immediately. It is a deep, continuous friction. ZZZZZZZZZZZ dot 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 skr dash skr dot 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 ZZZZZZZZZZ dot dot. It is a gritty, resonant sound. It is the sound of stone eating grain. The rhythm is slow and steady. You must maintain the pace. If you stop, the process is broken. If you go too fast, the stones overheat and the flour is spoiled. This is a monotonous sound. It is a drone. It requires no thought, only physical entrance and rhythmic application of force. You let the rhythm of the grind take over your mind. The grinding stone is hard work. Your shoulders ache. Your arm muscles burn slightly from the continuous circular motion. This work is a physical prayer to the coming summer. The ground flour begins to trickle out from between the two stones. It is wholemeal flour. It is not white and soft. It is slightly beige or grey, and still contains small flakes of the husk. It is thick and nourishing. The flour falls into a wooden tray placed beneath the stones. The sound of the flour landing is a soft, continuous hiss. Shh. The air around the quern becomes dry and dusty. You can smell the dust of the flour. It is a fine, clean, wholesome scent. It smells like the earth and the sun. It tickles your nose gently. You might cough softly. Hut. You pause for a moment to replenish the grain in the hole. The noise stops instantly. The silence is profound. You hear only your own heavy, Rhythmic breathing. You turn the stone again. Z z z z z z z z z z z skrrr square. The sound is the same, starting up again, taking over the quiet space. You run your hand into the flour. It is fine, but you can feel the slight grittiness of the husks. You feel the warmth generated by the friction of the stones. The flour is warm. This flour is the guarantee of the next loaf. This flour is tomorrow's pottage. You are not just turning a stone. You are turning the wheel of survival. The process takes a long time. You measure the time by the volume of the flour, not by the sun. When the bucket is full, the work is done. You finish the last of the grain. The sound of the grinding changes. The stones are meeting each other now. The gritty sound becomes a hollow scrape. Scrape, scrape. You must stop quickly, before the stones are damaged. You sweep the last of the flour from the tray into the sack. You use a small brush made of dried hair. The sound of the brush on the wood is soft and dry. Swish, swish. The work is finished. The quern is silent. You feel the fatigue in your arms, but it is a deep, satisfying tiredness. You have performed the fundamental work of the day. You look at the bag of flour. It is heavy. It is security. It is the sound of the grinding stone that created it. Cleanliness in the winter is a battle against confinement and damp. The full wash of clothes is rare, but the washing of the body and the small linen items is a necessary ritual. We focus on the sounds of water and cleansing. The water is heated near the fire. You pour it into a sturdy wooden tub. The sound of the water hitting the dry wood is deep and hollow. From, the steam rises, smelling of wood smoke and the slight mineral content of the water. You take the heavy, coarse linen shirt. It is thick and smells of smoke and body heat. You soak it in the warm water. The sound of the dry linen absorbing the water is a soft, wet sigh. SSSSSP. The fabric becomes heavy and yielding. You pick up the soap. It is a piece of hard, rough block made from rendered animal fat and wood ashlar. It is harsh, but effective. It smells stronger raw, clean, chemical smell. You rub the soap heavily into the wet linen. The sound of the rough block sliding over the wet, coarse fabric is a grating squish squish. You place the linen on a flat stone or scrubbing board. You begin to scrub. You rub the fabric against itself. Scrub, scrub, scrub. The sound is relentless and forceful. It is the sound of friction against dirt. The water turns cloudy and dark almost immediately. You wring the cloth out. You twist the thick fabric. The sound of the water being pushed out is a heavy squelch and a thin, watery drizzle. The water runs back into the tub. You rinse the linen in clean, cool water. The sound of the rinsing is softer, a gentle, continuous slosh and swish. You are washing away the soap and the remaining dirt. The smell of the clean linen is a sharp contrast to the rest of the room. It smells cool and fresh. Now, the washing of the hands and face. The skin on your hands is rough, dry, and cracked from the cold and the work. You ladle warm water from the tub. The water runs down your rough hands. The sound is a gentle, continuous trickle. You take the soap. You rub it into your palms. You hear the soft, airy sound of the lather building up. It is a light, quick foam. You rub your hands together, paying attention to the cracks and creases. The sound of the rubbing is a slick, continuous squish squish of wet skin. You splash the water onto your face. Plish, plish. The cool water on your warm skin is startling and refreshing. The sound is sharp and clean. You dry your hands on a piece of rough, dry wool. The sound of the dry wool against the damp skin is a soft, abrasive rubbing. The feeling of the clean skin is profound. The pores are open. The air feels cool against the damp skin. The smell of the raw soap and clean water is powerful. The whole ritual is a pause. It is a moment of care for the self. It is the quiet assertion that the body deserves respect, even in the struggle for survival. You sit and listen to the final sound of the wash, the long, slow, steady drip of the clean linen hanging near the fire to dry. Each drop of water falling to the dirt floor is a soft, wet plop. The rhythm of the dripping water is the sound of deep cleanliness. The most important layer of protection against the winter is the thatch roof. It is the great blanket that keeps the heat in and the wet out. It requires constant, vigilant attention. Today, you suspect a small breach. The wind has shifted, and a faint draft suggests a thinning of the straw. You go outside. You retrieve the wooden ladder. It is heavy and rough. You lean it against the clay wall of the cottage. The sound of the rough wood scraping against the clay is a dry, grating scritch. You make sure the ladder is firm. You begin to climb. Your hands grip the wooden rungs. The sound of the wood creaking under your weight is a deep, slow groan. N-N-N-N-N-N-N-G-H. You reach the top. You stand carefully on the roof. The thatch is a deep layer of tightly packed, dry grass. It feels firm, but slightly springy, under your heavy boots. You walk slowly across the roof, testing the density with your feet. You are listening for any change in the sound. A dry, heavy thud means the thatch is good. A hollow crunch means there is a problem. Thud, thud, crunch. You find the spot. The straw is damp and thin here. You kneel down. The texture of the thatch against your hands is coarse and scratchy. It smells of dried reeds and old rain. You bring a small bundle of fresh, dry straw golden and clean up with you. You use a wooden bat or a small paddle to tamp the new straw into the thin spot. The sound of the dry, new straw being pushed into the gap is a tight, satisfying shhhp. It is the sound of sealing the breach. You work slowly, packing the straw tightly. You want it dense. You want it impermeable. You run your hand over the repaired area. The surface is now smooth and firm. You listen to the wind passing over it. The wind makes a soft sighing sound as it passes over the smooth thatch. You are a surgeon of the house. You are mending the skin of your shelter. This small repair now prevents a catastrophic leak later. Vigilance in the small things prevents ruin in the large things. You sit for a moment on the ridge of the roof. You look out over the frozen landscape. The cold is intense up here. The wind is a clear, cold whistle in your ears. You feel the presence of the whole house beneath you. The warmth, the sleepers, the stored food, you are the shield. You look at the way the snow clings to the thatched surface. The straw traps the air, creating a layer of insulation. The roof is a masterpiece of simple engineering. You descend the ladder. The creaking starts again. N-N-N-N-N-N-N-G-H. Your boots slip slightly on the rungs. You step back onto the frozen earth. You lift the heavy ladder and move it back to the side of the house. The sound of the ladder settling is a low, heavy thud. You look up at the roof. The repair is invisible now, blending with the old straw. But you know it is there. It is secure. You return inside the cottage. The warmth is immediate. The air is still. You listen for the draft you felt earlier. It is gone. The wind is silenced. The house is sealed. The warmth is held. You sit down by the fire. You feel the deep satisfaction of the completed labor. The work of the quern, the purification of the wash, the securing of the roof, all necessary, all slow, all done. You breathe in slowly. You exhale. You are safe. You are warm. The roof holds. The world outside the cottage walls is rendered solid by the frost. The water that sustains life has been arrested by the cold. Today, we listen to the unique, sharp, and brittle sounds of frozen liquid. You step outside in the morning. Your breath clouds instantly. The world is silent, but you are about to break that silence. You walk to the water bucket you left outside last night. The surface water has formed a thick, clear crust of ice. You take a small, blunt tool, a piece of wood or a small rock. You bring it down on the surface of the ice. Crack. The sound is sharp and brittle. It is loud in the cold, still air. The ice fractures in a spiderweb pattern. It is the sound of fragility giving way to force. You push the broken pieces of ice under the water. They float back up, cold and slick. You lift the heavy, cold bucket and carry it back inside. You walk toward the frozen pond or the slow-moving stream. The surface is completely sealed. The ice is thick enough to walk on, but it is never truly silent. You step onto the surface of the frozen water. Your heavy boot hits the solid ice. Crunch. The heavy sound of your boot is immediately followed by a long, deep, resonant groan from the ice sheet below. NNNNGH ... woo OOM ... The sound travels across the frozen surface. It is the ice shifting, expanding, and contracting with the temperature difference between the surface and the water below. It is an eerie, vast, living sound. It makes the world feel enormous and empty. You stop walking and listen. You hear the small, high-pitched sounds of stress, ping, twang. These are tiny cracks forming deep in the sheet. Sounds that disappear instantly into the dry air. You kneel down by a small frozen puddle. The ice here is thin and transparent. You touch it with your gloved finger. It is smooth and intensely cold. You press down slightly. The thin layer of ice breaks instantly, shatter. A delicate, quick sound, like breaking glass. The pieces fall into the dark, cold water below. The sound of frozen water is always a reminder of the power of the cold. It turns the most fluid, flexible element into the most solid and unforgiving. You scrape your boot across the surface of the frozen snow near the door. The sound is dry and crystalline. SSSSKRRT. You look at the frost covering the thatcher layer of tiny, delicate ice crystals. They catch the pale sunlight, sparkling with small, quick flashes of light. They are beautiful, but deadly. You return to the warm air inside. You place the water bucket near the hearth. The ice begins its slow, quiet transformation back into liquid. You can hear the small, almost imperceptible sound of the ice melting, a faint, gentle drip from the edges of the pieces. The memory of the loud, sharp crack from outside is quickly replaced by the soft, warm drip of the interior. You breathe in the warm air. The scent of wood smoke and life is comforting. You have witnessed the power of the exterior cold, and you have safely retreated. The sounds of frozen fragility are the background music to your knowledge of safety. The most important ritual of the day is performed at dusk. It is the act of putting the fire to sleep, banking the hearth. This act ensures that the embers will stay alive until morning, saving precious time, kindling, and energy. It is the transition from day to night. The fire has been burning brightly all day. It is a large, lively fire. Now, it must be contained. You take the fire shovel, made of heavy iron. You scrape the burning logs forward to expose the thick bed of glowing, intense red coals. The sound of the iron scraping the stone hearth is a dry, resonant scrap-heap. The coals are the treasure. They hold the heat. You remove the larger, still burning logs. They are set aside to be used in the morning. The coals are raked together into a tight, dense pile in the center of the hearth. You take a bucket of ash, not the fine, white ash from the old fires, but the heavier, slightly coarser ash. The ash is the blanket. It must be applied carefully. You use the shovel to lift a small amount of ash. You begin to layer it gently over the pile of coals. The sound of the ash falling onto the coals is soft, dull, and continuous. SSSSSSP ... It is the sound of smothering. The fire protests. As the ash lands, the coals let out a small, faint hiss, and the thin wisp of smoke rises. The red glow of the coals is slowly dimmed. It turns from bright red to a deep, pulsating, muffled orange. You work slowly, patiently. You do not want to put the fire out. You only want to starve it of oxygen, so that the heat remains trapped inside the carbon. You listen for the sound of any flame. If a flame appears, you add more ash. You layer the entire pile of coals with a thick, insulating dome of ash. The surface is smooth and dark. Only the very top might retain a faint, deep orange glow, the eye of the sleeping fire. The room, which was bright with firelight moments ago, is now plunged into a deeper, dimmer darkness. The only light comes from the small, remaining glow of the banked hearth. The air stops moving. The rush of air being pulled into the fire is gone. The atmosphere of the cottage becomes still and heavy. For the final seal, you take a heavy, flat piece of slate or iron. You carefully place it over the domed pile of ash. The sound of the heavy object landing on the hearth is a soft, deep thud, thunk. The fire is now completely silent. It is sealed. It is sleeping. It is guarded. This silence is profound. It signifies the end of the day's activity and the beginning of the night's commitment to rest and conservation. You stand back and breathe a slow sigh of relief. The work is done. The heat is preserved. You feel the slight, radiating warmth coming through the heavy slate lid. It is not the active heat of a fire, but the passive, enduring heat of trapped energy. It is the perfect, safe warmth for the night. The sound of your own slow, steady breathing is the only living noise. The fire will now wait for you. It will sleep 4 hours, holding its red heart until you wake in the cold morning to stir it back to life. You go to bed, wrapped in the secure silence of the banked fire. In a world without refrigeration, salt is life. It is the chemical that conquers decay. It is the dominant taste of the medieval winter diet. We focus now on the sensory world of preservation. You are in the larder, the coolest, driest corner of the cottage. The air here has a sharp, intense smell of salt. It is a clean, dry, chemical smell that cuts through the other odors of the home. You reach into a barrel where the pork or fish has been preserved. The meat is buried deep under layers of coarse, white salt. You reach in and scoop out a handful of the salt. The texture is rough and crystalline. The sound of your hand disturbing the salt is a soft, dry screech. You pull out a piece of preserved pork. It is hard, dry, and dark. It is coated in white, sparkling salt crystals. It feels cold and heavy in your hand. Before the meat can be eaten, the excess salt must be removed. You take a dull knife or a small piece of wood. You scrape the salt vigorously off the surface of the meat and into a bowl to be saved. The sound of the salt being scraped off the hard surface is a dry, grating scrat. It is sharp and immediate. The meat is then soaked in water to draw out some of the remaining salt. The sound of the dry, hard meat being placed into the water is a soft plop. You taste a tiny grain of the salt on your tongue. The flavor is sharp, intense, and immediately overwhelming. It is the purest taste of preservation. It reminds you of the sea, of the sun, and of the immense human effort required to mine or evaporate it. The salt is precious. It is never wasted. You return to the main room. The pottage is simmering over the low fire. It is warm, thick, and nourishing, but mostly bland, made from barley and beans. You cut a thin slice of the soaked, but still intensely salty, pork. You place the thin, hard slice into your mouth. You chew slowly, munch. The texture is tough and dry. The intense flavor of the salt spreads quickly across your tongue. It is a powerful, welcome contrast to the neutrality of the pottage. The salt does more than preserve. It stimulates the appetite. It makes the bland food palatable. You feel the sharp, satisfying burn of the salt in your mouth. You drink a cup of the weak ale to wash it down. The taste of the malt and yeast is a soft counterpoint to the salt. You look at the wooden hooks where the cured fish or smoked sausages hang. They are dark and dry. The scent of the smoke and the salt clings to the wood. The presence of the salted meat is a profound comfort. It means the body is receiving the essential nutrients it needs to withstand the cold. It means that the long winter is planned for. You feel the hard, dry texture of the salt crystals on your fingertips. It is the texture of survival. You close your eyes and focus on the lingering taste of the salt, sharp, clean, and strong. It is the taste of endurance. The winter is the season of maintenance. Everything that broke during the autumn, everything that wore thin from use, must now be repaired, ready for the relentless work of the spring and summer. We focus on the slow, meticulous sounds of mending and repair. You are working with leather. The sole of a boot is worn. The stitching is broken. You take the heavy piece of dry, stiff leather. You can smell the tannin and the faint, earthy scent of the old animal hide. You rub the leather with a piece of tallow to soften it slightly. The sound of your hand rubbing the fat into the dry leather is a slick, continuous squish. To stitch the leather, you must use an awl, a small, sharp, pointed tool. You push the awl through the thick hide to create a hole for the thread. The sound is a sharp, quick pop as the point breaks through the tough fibers. You work slowly, measuring the distance for the next stitch. Pop, pop, pop. The thread you use is thick and waxed. You thread the blunt needle. You push the thread through the hole made by the awl. The sound of the waxed thread dragging through the tight leather is a low, abrasive SSSHHHHT. The motion is steady, pop, thread, pull, saff. This rhythm is slow. It requires great strength in the hands and immense concentration. The mended seam is stronger than the original. It is a physical act of defiance against entropy. You are restoring order and longevity. Next, you move to the cloth, a tear in a heavy wool tunic. You take a fine needle and the thick length of wool thread. You gather the edges of the tear. The sound of the needle pushing through the dense, woven wool is a soft, precise click as the metal meets the fabric. Click, click, click. The rhythmic action of the needle in, out, pull is soothing. Your head is bowed over the work. You are focused entirely on the small, intricate pattern of the stitches. You use a patch of slightly different colored wool. The patch is then secured with hundreds of small, tight stitches. This is not invisible mending. It is visible strength. The patch is a badge of endurance. You notice the sound of the thread being pulled taut against the rough fabric, a slight, high-pitched zing. The entire cottage is filled with the low sounds of this repair work, the dry pop of the awl, the soft click of the needle, the rhythmic rub of the wool. These are not the sounds of creation, but of restoration. You are preparing your tools and clothing for the intense demands of the spring. You are ensuring that nothing will break when you need it most. You finish the patch. You bite the thread cleanly with your teeth. Snip. You hold the repaired garment up. The thick wool is heavy and warm. The patch is firm and secure. It is ready for the coming labor. You feel the calm certainty that comes from knowing your equipment is sound. The work of your hands ensures the resilience of your life. In the long confinement of the winter, the greatest challenge is not the cold, but the silence. When the external world is muffled by snow and the human interaction is minimal, the mind turns inward. We listen now to the subtle sounds of isolation and self-check. The cottage is completely quiet. Everyone is resting or engaged in silent tasks. The fire is low. The silence here is not empty. It is dense. It presses in on you. It is so quiet that the natural sounds of the body become amplified. You become aware of the subtle sound of the blood pumping near your ears, a low, distant whoosh. You hear the gentle clink of fluid moving when you shift your head. To break the pressure of the silence, you engage in the necessary act of talking to yourself. Not loudly, but in a very soft, low whisper, you are performing a mental inventory. The rye seed is safe. The butter is holding. The chimney is clear. The sound of your own voice, the low, dry whisper, is your self-check. It is an affirmation of reality against the long, dark hours. You may rise and walk. Since the space is small, the movement is constrained. You walk the same few steps over and over. The sound of your heavy, felt slippers on the dirt floor is a soft, deep thump, thump, turn, thump, thump, turn. This is a rhythmic pacing. It is a way of using movement to structure the time, to prevent the hours from blending into an endless void. The movement is contained, repetitive, and deeply soothing. You stand by the wall and rub the rough clay with your fingers. The sound of the dry skin against the clay is a low, continuous scrape. You are touching the material of your shelter, connecting with the physical reality of the boundaries. Sometimes, the deep silence is broken by a sudden, jarring sound that emphasizes the quiet. A soft cough from the corner. A small piece of dried thatch falling from the roof, with a faint tap on the floor. These sounds are sharp and intrusive. You listen to the quiet gnawing of a mouse somewhere in the thatched roof. Scritch, scritch, scritch. It is a tiny, persistent sound of life that reminds you of the constant, quiet struggle for survival happening just outside the walls of your protection. You perform a psychological check. You stare at the flame of the rushlight. You focus completely on the delicate, jumping yellow light. You try to hold your mind to this single point. The light flickers, the shadows dance. You must hold your internal self steady against the instability of the external light. The sense of isolation is not despair. It is a profound self-reliance. You are learning to be your own center. You are your own clock, your own companion, your own shield. You find the most quiet corner of the cottage. You sit down. You breathe in slowly. You let the silence of the winter enter you. You embrace the quiet wait. You are learning to be still, to be sufficient, and to find the deep, low hum of contentment in the absence of noise. The rhythmic thump-thump of your own heart becomes the only necessary drumbeat. The winter is now acknowledged as complete. The work is done. The self is secured. This segment is purely anticipation, the mental preparation for the massive physical labor of the coming season. It is a moment of deep contemplation and vow. You go to the small pile of reserve seed grain. You take a handful of the soil you brought in earlier from segment 21, kept dry and clean. You rub the soil between your fingers. It is dark, dry, and cool. The sound is a soft, low skirt of fine dirt friction. You smell the raw, deep scent of the earth. It is a heavy, mineral scent. It smells of promise and decay, of nitrogen and life. You hold the soil and the seed in your palms. You look at the dark, powerful dirt. You are making a silent vow to this earth. I will work you. I will turn you. I will plant you. I will harvest you. You feel the slight, inner quickening of your own energy. The long stillness of the winter is breaking up. Your muscles, rested and repaired, feel the call of the field. The thoughts of labor are no longer exhausting. They are energizing. You visualize the sound of the heavy plow cutting through the rich, dark soil deep, tearing rarep. You welcome that sound. You step outside. Briefly. The air is still cold, but now it feels clean, not freezing. You listen for the first, unmistakable signs of the return. Not the wind, not the dripping water, but the life that comes from far away. And then you hear it, distant, high and clear. The call of a returning bird, tweet, tweet-wee. The sound is sharp and immediate. It is the first tiny, joyful instrument in the great symphony of spring. It is completely different from the lonely cry of the winter hawk. It is a social sound. You stand and listen. The sound is a profound confirmation. The cycle is turning. The time for rest is ending. You look at the sun. It is higher now. Its light is pale gold, not icy white. You return inside. The warmth of the cottage is now seen not as a shield against death, but as a launching platform for life. You sit by the silent, banked hearth. You let the feeling of anticipation settle into a deep, quiet resolve. The work will be heavy. The days will be long. The body will ache. But this is the life you were built for. You feel the slow, steady certainty of the farmer. You have endured the darkness. Now you will earn the light. You close your eyes. You make the final promise to yourself, to meet the sun with strength, and to honor the earth with labor. The long winter is over. The vow is made. The true signal of winter's surrender is not the sun, but the water. After months of silence and solid ice, the return of liquid flow is an immense, liberating sound. We are listening to the great thaw. The quiet, sharp world of segment 28 is now breaking apart. You stand by the eaves of the cottage. The sun is warm and persistent. The snow on the roof is beginning to melt. The sound of the melting snow is a gentle, continuous trickle. Drip, drip, drip. The drops fall from the thatch into the soft, muddy ground below. The rhythm is uneven, but constant. You walk toward the frozen stream. The hard, icy seal is breaking. You hear the soft, internal gurgle of water beginning to move beneath the ice. It is a choked, joyous sound. Then the ice sheet fractures, not with the sharp crack of the earlier segments, but a slow, heavy tear and submerged roar. RRRIPPP ... glug glug glug. The water is free. The sound of the stream is now loud. It is the sound of gushing, cold water rushing over stones and through thawed reeds. It is a continuous, forceful swish and roar that dominates the air. You dip your hands into the water. It is intensely cold, but moving. You can feel the speed of the current against your fingers. The sound of the moving water is cleansing. It carries away the lingering stillness of the winter. It sounds like the world is finally, massively breathing. You listen to the small, subtle sounds of the thaw in the dirt. The mud is soft under your boots. The sound of your foot pulling out of the mud is a wet, satisfying slop. The air smells different. It is wet, clean, and earthy. The dry scent of smoke is challenged by the damp, metallic scent of the running water. You are witnessing the great exchange of the seasons. The silence of the cold is traded for the loud, fluid song of the thaw. You sit by the stream and listen to the continuous, powerful gush. It is a sound of relentless forward motion. It is the sound of time accelerating. You close your eyes and let the sound of the clean, running water wash away the accumulated dust and confinement of the long winter. The fields are still too wet to work, but the tools must be ready. The long silence of the shed is broken by the sharp, metallic sounds of tool preparation. You are preparing the plough, the great instrument of the harvest. It has sat dormant, protected from rust, all winter. You take the heavy iron ploughshare, the blade that cuts the earth. It is dull and slightly rusted. You take a heavy grinding stone. You begin to sharpen the metal edge. The sound is an intense, high-pitched scrape of metal on stone. Scree scree. The sound is forceful and demanding. Sparks fly, small, quick, sharp sounds. The edge of the blade slowly begins to gleam. You are restoring the sharpness needed to cut through the compacted soil. You turn your attention to the wooden harrow, the heavy frame that breaks up the clods of earth. The wood is dry and rough from the cold storage. You rub the heavy wooden frame with linseed oil or tallow. The sound of the cloth spreading the thick oil is a soft, wet shlub shlub. The oil soaks into the dry wood, darkening it and preserving it against the coming damp and sun. The wood smells rich and deep. You begin to reassemble the various parts of the plough, tightening the heavy wooden wedges and metal pins. The sound of the hammer hitting the metal pin is a sharp, resonant clank. Clank, clank, the sound echoes in the small shed. It is a sound of structural integrity being restored. You check the yoke, the wooden beam that rests on the necks of the oxen. You rub it smooth to prevent chafing. The wood is smooth and polished. The sound of your hand rubbing the smooth, oiled wood is a silky SSSHHHHH. The work is precise and focused. Every bolt, every join, every inch of wood must be ready for the incredible stress of the first ploughing. The tools must be perfect. You stand back and survey the finished plough. It is now a machine ready for duty. It is dark wood, polished metal, and taut ropes. It is the embodiment of the coming work. You touch the sharp edge of the share. You hear the deep, strong clank of the chain as you move the whole implement slightly. The sound of metal being prepared for the earth is a powerful declaration. The tools are awake. The season is shifting. The half fire has been the only fire 4 months. Now, the thaw allows for the essential ritual of the outdoor fire, clearing the fields and burning the waste brush. This fire smells different, sounds different, and feels like a release. You are outside in the open air. You have gathered the dead branches, the dry weeds, and the brush that collected over the winter. You light the fire. It catches quickly. The fire is much louder than the contained half fire. It has no chimney to dampen the sound. The fire is a sharp, hungry roar. Whoosh, crackle, pop. The volume is high. It is an aggressive, cleansing sound. The smell is the most profound change. It is not the rich, deep, familiar smoke of the seasoned oak and tallow. It is the sharp, acrid, thin smoke of burning dry leaves and green brush. It smells of dust and wildness. It is an outdoor, untamed smoke. You stand back and listen to the frantic, quick pop 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 of the dry twigs and leaves being consumed. This fire burns fast, quickly reducing the winter debris to fine ash. You walk around the fire, pushing the unburnt edges inward with a long stick. The sound of the stick hitting the burning wood is a sharp, light tap tap. The wind catches the smoke. The smoke does not fill a small room. It flies up into the vast open sky. You watch the plume of white, thin smoke rising high and quickly dissipating. It is a visual release. You hear the soft, wet hiss of the fire hitting a patch of damp, frozen soil. The water is instantly vaporized. The smell of the burning brush is symbolic. It is the smell of endings and beginnings. The old, dead growth is being returned to the earth. You feel the heat of the fire on your face. It is a large, open, radiating heat, not the contained heat of the hearth. You can feel the cold wind on your back, while the fire is hot on your front. It is a raw, dynamic balance. When the fire dies down, all that remains is a pile of fine, white, drifting ash. The ash is dry and weightless. You scrape it into a basket. The sound of the shovel moving the ash is a soft, airy hush. This clean ash will be spread back onto the field to nourish the new growth. The cycle is complete. Destruction leads directly to renewal. You return inside, smelling faintly of the sharp, outdoor smoke. It is a clean, liberated scent. Before the work begins, you take a moment for a final, comprehensive sensory inventory of the winter cottage. You are listening to the house itself, committing its specific sounds and textures to memory, knowing they will change soon. You sit in the center of the room, completely still. You listen to the sound of the straw bedding. It is dry now, but heavy. When you shift your weight, it makes a dry, crisp rustle. This is the sound of your winter bed. You touch the clay wall. It is no longer damp and icy, but dry and slightly warm from the cumulative heat. The texture is rough. The sound of your finger rubbing it is a dry scrape. This is the sound of your insulation. You listen to the chimney. The draw is steady. The low sound of the draft is a continuous, soft hiss, SSSSSHH. This is the sound of the air being managed. You pick up a piece of heavy wool cloth that has been worn all winter. You rub the wool between your fingers. It is coarse, thick, and smells faintly of smoke and the long preservation of body heat. The sound of the rubbing is a deep, muffled friction. You look at the wooden beams above your head. They have creaked all winter as the house settled. You listen for the small, deep creak and groan that is the house's voice. You listen to the sound of the empty larder. The barrels are nearly empty. The dry, dull thump when you tap the wood is hollow. The salt barrel is almost dry. The sounds of consumption are nearly over. This final sensory check is a psychological act of closure. You are saying goodbye to the intensity of the confinement. These sounds, the deep silence, the low fire drone, the heavy wool are the signature of the long sleep. You take a deep breath, inhaling the combined scent of dry smoke, old leather, and warm earth. This is the scent of winter safety. You realize that soon, the house will be quieter. The door will be open more often. The sounds of the field, the cow lowing in the pasture, the sound of the wind through the leaves, these will replace the close, intense sounds of the interior. You let the final sounds of the winter house wash over you, one last time. You are committing the sound of security to the core of your memory. The winter is officially concluded with a closing ceremony, the consumption of the last preserved food, and the putting away of the interior tools. You go to the larder one last time. The salt barrel is nearly empty. You scrape the bottom of the wood with a small ladle. The sound is dry and grating, the final, dry squirt of the last remnants of the winter preservation. The food is nearly gone. The last pieces of smoked, hard meat. The last spoonful of dense, dried peas. You prepare the last meal using the winter stores. It is a solemn, quiet meal, The focus is on gratitude for what was saved. You wash the heavy wool blankets. The sound of the thick, damp wool being hung up to dry is a soft, heavy thud against the wooden beam. They will be stored away until the autumn. They are wiped clean and placed in a dry, dark chest. The sound of the wooden tools settling into the chest is a soft, hollow clack. They will sleep now, while the tools of the field work. The sleep of the summer is fundamentally different from the heavy, defensive sleep of the winter. You are lying down. The heavy wool blankets have been replaced by lighter linen sheets. You feel the cool air on your skin. The light is not completely extinguished. A faint, blue twilight lasts long into the evening. The deep silence of the winter night is gone. The night is now full of sound. You hear the distant, continuous croaking of the frogs from the marsh. Croak, croak, croak. It is a loud, relentless, but soothing outdoor drone. It is the sound of the world's fertility. You hear the thin, high hiss of the insects in the new grass outside the window, a delicate, continuous zzzzzzzzzzz. The wind is not a howling force against the thatch. It is a soft, swishing sound through the newly leaved trees. Swish, swish, swish. It is a gentle, melodic sound. The smell is no longer smoke and tallow. It is the fresh scent of damp earth, sweet flowers, and clean air. Your sleep is lighter. It is less heavy. You are not protecting yourself from cold, but merely resting from labor. You listen to the gentle snort and movement of the oxen or the cow outside the cottage. The animals are now in the open, not confined next to you. The sound is farther away, but it is still comforting. You feel the lighter weight of your body. The heavy fatigue of the ploughing is a good, clean weight. The dreams are different. They are no longer about food preservation or the fear of frost. They are bright, active, and filled with the colors of the field, green, yellow, and blue. You let the external sounds, the frogs, the insects, the light breeze form a natural, continuous auditory blanket. The body is no longer tense. It is completely released. You are sleeping the sleep of the worker who has honored the spring. The rhythm is light, open, and free. You breathe slowly, deeply. Inhale sweet air, exhale release. You are safe. You are warm. You are in motion. The cycle is whole.